G'day battlers and welcome back to the Clash of the Casters. Now for those that don't know what this tournament is or just need a refresher from last week, today I have invited all of the Play Pokemon casters from the 2024 season from across North America, Europe, Latin America and Australia as well. And today we're going to see them fight it out for the grand prize of being the greatest caster of all time, but also for a nice little $100 USD prize at the end as well. Now last week we saw sort of everyone duke it out and we've essentially got halfway through the tournament. There's only a few battlers left that are undefeated. And so today we're going to be seeing a lot of really cool matches between some really cool people. But not only that, but we're going to have some really cool casters as well. Last week I was joined by World Champion Axon, World Champion Dancing Rob and World Champion Emmy Weedle. This week, I'm joined by World Champion Axon, World Champion Speediest Chief, and World Champion Dunebug. So let's bring these guys in, these absolute legends in the Pokemon Go PvP community, and let's get the Clash of the Casters underway. Gentlemen, welcome in to the Clash of the Casters. Good to see you all. Axon, how's it going? You know, we saw you last week doing some brilliant casting, and we're in for round 2.
Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm really excited to see this. I obviously last week had so many good battles. I've seen the slate for this week's battles as well. It just gets better and better. I'm very excited to see who ends up coming up on top, and hopefully we're going to see some more great battles.
Oh yeah, I think we can guarantee that we've got some great battles coming up. But Speedy, I think not only is everyone excited to see you, but everyone's asking. I've seen this question come up again and again, not only in the last stream, but also on Twitter. Why is Speedy not competing? Where is he?
Yeah, of course. Well, over the past month, I spent a lot of time traveling. I went down to Mexico, then I went to Lima, then Cusco, and then back to Lima, and then back to Mexico, and then I went to Denver, Colorado. And I just felt like with all the traveling I was doing, it was going to be really tough to coordinate with my fellow co-casters. I didn't want to put them through a tough time. I have a really tough memory of playing against Palasha in ADL, walking around the streets of Mexico City, trying not to get absolutely annihilated, but my attempts were in vain. So it's definitely tough. I'm one of those people that as I get a little bit older, I feel like I need to only do one thing at a time. And I decided the one thing that I wanted to do was cast with my fellow champs.
Ah, this guy, what an absolute sweetheart. But yeah, look, we did have a few battlers. I think Lundberger was actually playing for Mauritius as well as Nighttime Clashing from China. But I think you have enough going on. It's all right. And it means that we're all lucky enough to get to see some classic Speediest Chief 2 casting going on this week. So I think we can all count ourselves lucky. And all of the competitors can count themselves lucky as well, that they didn't have to take you on with your world champ difference. But
I'm a little bit rustier than I have been in the past, but we'll see. We'll see if I compete a bit next season.
Oh, we'll look forward to it. Maybe some Bronzong plays coming up soon. But, of course, we also have in the box to my opposite diagonal, we've got Dunebug97, Silpharina World Champion. How's it going, Dune? Are we ready to go for the Clash of the Casters finals?
Oh, it's going great. I am so thankful for this opportunity. There should be some really good battlers, some really good battles between some great, not only great casters, but really phenomenal competitors.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple regional knockouts here. We've got some famed second place finishes as well. We've got a lot of really, actually a few of them, but we really have some really cool people fighting in this tournament. So let's just take a quick little review of the results from last time. So essentially, this is where we ended up the last tournament. So first number being the match wins, in the brackets being the battle wins as well. Any 2-0s have just been recorded as a 3-0 for purposes of this, and we essentially have 3 battlers hanging out at the very top. HomeSliceHenry, Inadequance, and Rocha Babyface are all hanging out on that 3-0-9-0, not actually dropping a single battle in this tournament so far. I mean, Axon, you were casting alongside us last week. I mean, what do you remember from last week? What sort of stands out coming into this week number 2?
Yeah, what really stood out to me is a lot of unique teams were brought. I know obviously Inadequance loved his Giratina. He brought it once again this tournament. HomeSliceHenry as well, a very unique team. And I think what's really going to come out on top is the people who are comfortable with the Pokemon that they know how to use and make it so that their teams are as comfortable for them as possible. It doesn't really matter what the team is, as long as they are the ones piloting that team. So seeing these great battlers who are already 3-0, 9-0, as we can see in some of those R2Os that became 3-0s because they didn't play the final battle, but still undefeated basically for those battlers. Seeing which one of those teams, which one of those players can come out on top is going to be very fun to see.
Yeah, I can definitely sort of back you up in saying that it's all about the driver, not necessarily the car, because I'll give you a little bit of insight here. I ran one of these 3-0 teams at a local tournament yesterday, and I literally came last. It did not go well for me. So these guys definitely know what they're doing. They know their Pokemon. They know how to play them. So I'm really excited to see them sort of fight it out this week. And of course, you can go back and watch the last weeks on YouTube if you do want to go back. There's still some really exciting battles, even if you now know the results. But let's take a look at the 6 matches we're going to be... the first 6 matches we're going to be seeing today. Not only 6. We have round number 4 of the tournament. Again, last week we actually saw a mix-up of rounds 1 through 3. And this week we're going to see round 4 and round 5. So we're going to start off with sophtoph versus Adelian. We then have LNDsAureo versus TzSpenx with a Latin America face-off. In number 3, we've got Rise to Occasion versus KoningLionheart. Someone we didn't get to see battle last week, but we do get to see them battle this week in the sort of round 4 in it to win it zone. We've got Fishy Legs versus No Mimi 15 in battle number 4. Battle number 5, we have the giant Inadequance versus HomeSliceHenry, and then the final battle of round 6 is going to be Rocha Babyface versus Thaliwi. So essentially, that battle number 5 is going to put someone into the grand finals, whether it's Inadequance or HomeSliceHenry. Someone is coming out of this round with a 4-0, and then number 6 is going to be incredibly definitive in terms of what is actually going to happen in round number 5. If Rocha Babyface is able to take out the win, then we will have a definitive 2 people with 4-0, and one of them will become the champion of this tournament. But if Rocha Babyface is defeated, if Thaliwi comes out on top, then we're actually going to see a case where we only have one competitor in this tournament with a 4-0 result, which means that it's going to be up to them to defend the champion title, because if they don't, then someone else could come in and chomp that champion title, take that $100 prize pool all in the end. So we'll all just have to wait and see what we're going to get in this tournament. But let me ask you guys, what sort of matchup you might be most keen to see. Dunebug, I'll sort of ask you first. Is there a particular match of these 6 that you're pretty excited to get going today?
I'm very intrigued to see the Rise to Occasion versus KoningLionheart matchup, because I've never really gotten to see Koning battle before, so I'll be very interested to see how he does.
Yeah,
against one of the best competitors that we've seen in the competitive circuit.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, I think you're right. Koning is a bit of an unknown wild card going into this tournament. Most people haven't seen him battle, but he's clearly doing incredibly well here. He's still got a positive result. He's still in the in it to win it bracket. So I think that I'm going to be really excited to see that, especially after we didn't actually get to see him battle last week. Now, Speedy, is there a battle here that you're particularly keen to see play out?
No, Dune took the words right out of my mouth. If I look at that pair number 3, you see one of the most seasoned, experienced trainers that we've ever come across in the championship series and in grassroots, right? Versus KoningLionheart, who I think is very similar to Nighttime Clasher. Came from a different game, learned Pokemon Go kind of on the fly, but has just had a L-shaped trajectory in learning the game and improving in all the battle skills. Every tool you need to win high-level games, he's got it. So it's gonna be really interesting to see kind of, our old guard versus the new generation, if I may say. Rise, sorry to call you old. I know you're not that old, but given Pokemon Go timelines, I do think that Konig is a little bit younger than you.
Yeah, come on now. Me and Rise are the same age. I don't need to get caught with any strays going on around here. But Axon, what about you? Is there another match that you're pretty keen to see today?
Yeah, honestly, I think there's 2, and that's going to be the last 2 matchups that we see. Inadequance versus HomeSliceHenry is obviously the highest profile match I think that we have on here as far as like the big names in the community. And those 2 battlers have very unique teams from each other. It's going to be amazing to see them face off. But then battle number 6, Rocha Babyface versus Thaliwi here. It's going to be a very decisive set here to see how the rest of this tournament is going to go. So I think the final 2 battles of this stream are going to be very interesting to watch, see how they play out, and see which one of these battlers, which one of these casters is the best.
Yeah, the all-important question that we all want to know. Which caster is the absolute best? It's not about their casting prowess. It's all about what they can do on the battlefield. So I think today we're just going to be jumping straight into it and getting into our battles. Of course, round number 1, as we just said, is going to be sophtoph versus Adelian. A little bit of North America versus Europe vibes that we see again and again, tournament after tournament. And I think we're going to see a lot of it at Worlds as well. So we're going to pass it off to Accent and Speedy for round number 1. So, gentlemen, champions, take it away.
All right.
Awesome.
Axon, I'm so excited to cast with you. This is the first time we've casted together. We've never battled together, but I do want to say, if you haven't figured this out already, a lot of these casters are very, very competitive as well. So sophtoph versus Adelian is going to be a treat.
Yeah, I know both of these casters. I've met them both in person. Very great people. And these teams, they're very unique. I see a lot of kind of unique picks that we haven't seen a lot in the Play Pokemon meta at NAIC, especially Pokemon like that Goodra, which weren't even around. And then for Alligator as well, which has finally picked up a win at a regional tournament. But it hasn't been as used as people might have expected at the initial edition of Shadowclaw. So seeing these two teams face off against each other will be very interesting. Does anything stand out to you on any of these teams?
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the Goodra pick. A lot of people are looking at that saying maybe Worlds 2024, it's going to be a meta player. We saw everybody talking about Thunder Punch Goodra being an X factor. And then you see people like Mango just running it without Thunder Punch and actually doing really, really well. So it's going to be interesting to see how well Goodra holds up in this meta against a very meta team here from Soph. I mean, this is pretty much what you expect. 2 Vigoroths, right? 1 on each side. No Annihilates to be seen, but that Skeledirge is an X factor. Throughout the entire season, Skeledirge has had a really outsized performance. What I mean by that is that it's not picked very often, but the trainers that do play it well tend to win titles. And the first one being Dunebug, right? It's really amazing to look at the fact that Skeledirge's first Play Pokemon appearance, it actually won a title in San Antonio.
Yeah, exactly. Fire type is such a flexible type as long as you're not against like those Quagsires or Feraligators, which sophtoph does actually have here to shut it down. But if you do avoid these matches, we have obviously the Charjabug, which is a fantastic matchup for the Skeledirge. The Cresselia as well, as long as it's not running Future Sight, is just hard walled by Skeledirge. So it's going to be interesting to see how much this Dirge can come into play. And I also see another Pokemon that I've been loving to use myself recently, the Shadow Quagsire. It's kind of the new Mudboy in the meta. We've had a lot of Whiscash in the past, a lot of Swampert even before that, but Shadow Quagsire is really rose to the top, having Aqua Tail and Mudshot being such a quick pacing Pokemon and having that Stone Edge coverage as well for the Flyers. Although I don't see too many Pokemon here actually weak to Rock type, only that Charjabug here on Sophtoph's team.
Exactly. Well, Champ, if you're ready, I think we can get into it. This is sophtoph on the left versus Adelian on the right, continuing this NA-EU rivalry.
Yeah, it's going to be very awesome to see what are these two trainers going to do. Well, we have very different leads here.
Absolutely. It looks like Vigoroth here versus, I think we're just a little bit desync. Looks like there's a Skarmory on the right side, but a Goodra on the left. So we're going to see how this unfolds.
I'm not quite sure how to cast that. 2 battles going on at the same time here. That might be above my pay grade just a little bit right now. Okay, maybe we're getting into it for real. It's going to be the Skarmory into the Vigoroth, the very neutral matchup. I think Vigoroth can actually end up winning the 2-shield matchup, but if Skarmory wants to get bold and start Brave Birding, it can actually win the lower shields pretty easily.
I was actually looking at the Skarmory pick here from Adelian. I think it's a very safe pick. Only really fearing the Charjabug. You can pull shields or deal damage to just about anything else on the team. So I do like this as a lead from him. And he does peel away that first potential from sophtoph in this Vigoroth matchup. Yeah,
exactly. When you look at Sophtoph's team, there's not a single flying resist. What this means is Skarmory in the lead, it can throw Brave Birds, it can just get shields very early on, and it looks like although a Sky Attack was thrown first, we still got a shield from Sophtoph here, another shield coming up, this time on Adelian's side. I think a Brave Bird was reached. What is the decision that Sophtoph is going to make this game? Is she going to shield that Brave Bird, or just let Switch Advantage go? It is going to be a pivotal moment, I think, in this match.
Great shield call by Adelian. I thought that was just a body slam, but the Rock Slide definitely would have knocked out. Brave Bird does KO the Vigoroth, giving Adelian control of Switch Advantage. How much of an impact does that actually make? Because he makes the switch out into Vigoroth immediately anyway.
That's a very smart swap out. He obviously has a Goodra and a Vigoroth here that are very strong into that Feraligator. He needs to also bait out this Cresselia. He has a Goodra, which is weak to Moonblast, and although Vigoroth is not conventionally strong against Cresselia, it is so neutral in some of these scenarios that it's not even in that bad of a matchup. Now later on, we will have that Goodra that can line up into that Gator, and we still have Skarmory around to kind of neutralize this Cresselia. So depending on that moveset of the Feraligatr, if it is on Ice Beam, then we do have to watch out still with Goodra. But if it's running Crunch, I think Goodra can really close out this backline matchup.
No attack drop from the Moonblast. Adelion also finding the charge attack priority tie against that Cresselia in that Moonblast Body Slam tie at that moment, which is really, really nice. Body Slam coming through again, just continuing to apply pressure. I love the back-to-back Body Slams as well. You don't want to play risky. You just want to get off as much damage as you possibly can in this Cresselia matchup. Cresselia is going to be pretty weak now, but we're kind of in the dark as to what's going on. But I think Cresselia probably got to another Moonblast.
Yeah, it looks like it is throwing another move here. I have the regular stream. It's a little bit behind. But we do see that the Grass Knot comes through. It knocks out the Vigoroth here. And I think Goodra is going to have a lot of work to do this game. It's going to come down to that moveset, I think, on Feraligatr. Steve, I don't know if you know, we can't see the actual battles here right now, the one going on.
We do see Feraligatr come in, via the stream, right?
Okay, so I'm assuming that something is happening right now. Okay, we got the match. So is this a bait? Right. Is it a nuke? What moveset is on this Feraligatr here? It's going to be a big call one way or another. We shield up the move. It's a Hydro. If there is an Ice Beam, we either need to see a catch here, or we need to see this Feraligatr through the Ice Beam and knock them out. We see very good patience from sophtoph, but can we fast move this thing down before they can knock us out? We throw a move. How much energy does this Feraligatr have?
That's the question, right? Does Feraligatr have the double Hydro Cannons, or does it have a loaded secondary charge attack? Here comes the Goodra. Hydro Cannon is not enough. This is the moment of truth. sophtoph banked as much energy as she possibly could, trying to get to the charge attack. It's an Ice Beam! Super effective damage, and Goodra falls.
Incredible energy management there by sophtoph, keeping as much energy as possible, overfarming perfectly against Stealing Skarmory. Obviously, Stealing doing a lot less damage here than the Goodra would be doing with these Dragon Breath fast attacks. So that was an incredible play. Feraligatr, which I think is such a safe Pokemon for sophtoph, was piloted perfectly to make it so she had as much flexible play, despite not having maybe the most favorable lead matchup that game. It was Skarmory into Vigoroth, but Feraligatr putting in so much work in the backline and taking her game number 1.
Yeah, and we made those comments about Skarmory for Adelion. Look at Feraligatr in its matchups into this team for Adelion, right? Because you only really have the Cresselia Grass Knot that's going to deal super effective damage to the Feraligatr. Otherwise, it seems pretty flexible across the board here. I didn't catch the Goodra moveset there. I believe it was Aqua Tail. I wasn't sure about the second charge tech.
I think it was running Thunder Punch there, so it does have that super effective move for the Feraligatr. But honestly, it's not really the Thunder Punch that's threatening it as much as the immediate Dragon Breath pressure. And I also know Vigoroth can be used as a Feraligatr counter. But one thing we have to keep in mind, Feraligatr here is non-shadow. What this means is that Feraligatr actually ends up winning the Zero Shield matchup. If you don't shield as the Vigoroth, then you're actually going to end up losing a matchup that you might think is good because you resist Shadow Claws. So Feraligatr, it has a lot of play. Even into the things you might consider as counters here, it can have ways to flip those matchups. So I think sophtoph in game number 2 is going to be leaning into that Gator once again as a very safe pick. Use it as a Pokemon that maybe if you get shields down or a shielded advantage even, then that Gator is probably just going to sweep.
So Axon, it sounds like you think the regular Feraligatr is superior to the Shadow. Is that what I'm hearing?
I wouldn't say it's superior overall, but in this matchup, it's hard to say that it's not going to just run through this team, I think. I like both Gators. I don't think I have a personal opinion yet on which one's better or which one's worse. They both have their reasons to run them. I've been using a lot of Shadow Gator myself in just GBL, but I think that this regular Gator it's putting on a very good show onto why you'd want to use it instead of the Shadow. But there's other Pokemon here too, right, that we might see coming into the next game. Obviously, Cresselia was brought. Are we going to see a Cresselia again? If so, the Shadow Quagsire is going to have a little bit less play. But I think Shadow Quagsire also has a lot of flexible play as one of sophtoph's best answers here to a Skarmory.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that the water types are pretty free here in this matchup. I mean, no Power Whip on Goodra, right? We established this Thunder Punch. Again, Grass Knot Cresselia is pretty much the only threat to those dual water types. So let's see what we get in game number 2 here. Soph, I believe, is 1 game away from advancing in the series. We've got Goodra in the lead versus Feraligatr, and we see the instant swap into the Vigoroth. You mentioned this matchup, actually, Axon. Vigoroth versus Goodra, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Vigoroth versus Gudra, in my opinion, is very strong for the Vigoroth. Just because Aqua Tail is a non-stab charge attack, it doesn't do too much damage. And these Dragon Breaths, while they are a strong move, Vigoroth just outpaces to these body slams here. So if that Gudra did happen to stay in, it would be a winning matchup for the Vigoroth. But here we actually see the Vigoroth mirror match here. One interesting thing about teams without Annihilate is Vigoroth generally becomes very safe. So you're going to see this matchup a lot. And the Vigoroth that has the energy lead should be in a good spot here to potentially draw a shield from Adelian. It looks like Adelian does have to draw the first Protect shield this game.
I think Adelion can go for a safe counter down after this, but Sophtoph's team looked familiar. That's actually a carbon copy of Out of Pocket's team from NAIC and his championship run. So maybe Soph took some notes from one of our international champs. In comes the Cresselia. We saw this matchup in game number 1 as well. We know the body slam doesn't deal a lot of damage, but the pressure is really on Cresselia to KO the Vigoroth before it adds up too much.
The one thing that I see sophtoph doing here, I was talking about shield advantage for Alligator. I think she sees what I saw, and she's going to try to play into that. Once this Vigoroth is out of the way, you have a lot of damage with Shadow Claws, with Hydro Cannons, with Ice Beams. She obviously does not know there's a Skarmory in the back, but that is a good matchup here, especially up shields for this Feraligatr. So it really depends on how she is going to be able to manage not only this Cresselia here, but that Feraligatr in the back to see if she can sweep this game.
Exactly right. A little bit of a switcheroo here on the screen. I believe in the studio mode, we're on the preview side and not the active side. We're going to see our Feraligatr come in here against the Gudra. You mentioned the Protect Shield advantage, but you also talked about earlier, Axon, the Dragon Breath pressure. This is going to apply a ton of pressure towards the Feraligatr and make life really hard for this water-type Pokemon. It's got to chew through a shield here and get to this Gudra somehow.
Yeah, and that's not just the Gudra at this point. There's still that Skarmory in the back. Although Feraligatr is generally a strong answer, you need to land 2 Hydro Cannons against it, and as much health as this Gator has, it's going to be chipped down by these Dragon Breaths, by these Steel Wings. It's going to be very hard here for this Gudra or for this Feraligatr to close out this matchup, I think, at this point. We are just so low on HP.
Exactly right. Feraligatr firing off the Hydro Cannon against the Skarmory. Going to deal some massive chip damage. And again, that water typing is resisting the Steel Wings, but there's still a Protect Shield in play. Feraligatr going to go for another Hydro Cannon, peeling away that final Protect Shield from Adelion.
It looks like we're going to see a Steel Wing down here, and that Cresselia is going to have to try to close out this game here for sophtoph. I don't think she's running Future Sight. If she was, maybe she'd have a little bit more charge move pressure. No, it is the Moonblast moveset. Can we see a debuff? That might keep her in the game at this point, but if there's no debuff, I think Skarm can survive this, land 2 moves against this Crest, take that last shield, and then take the knockout, and I think Adelion might be in a good spot here to win this next game.
Yeah, I didn't see a debuff there. Cresselia getting weaker by the moment. Skarmory going to fire off what I think is a Sky Attack here. That's a safe play. This is going to put that Cresselia dangerously low if it connects, and it does. Sophtoph hanging on, going for the Moonblast. Isn't enough, Axon.
Oh my goodness, that was a CMP event here. What this means is if this move does get shielded, which it does, I think this is enough to knock out this Skarmory. Adelion not going for the Brayford win condition here, Sky Attack doing less damage, and sophtoph, because of this CMP now, is going to guarantee the knockout against this Skarmory, taking game 2, and what looked like in a very bad situation there, having Cresselia locked into one of its worst answers in that Skarmory.
Wow, incredible. Sophtoph chews her way through a Skarmory with a Moonblast Cresselia. Chat is saying that the debuff did occur. A little bit of frame drops there, so I wasn't able to see it, but that is very, very good news for her. She's able to take the 2-0 out of a very tough situation in game number 2.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know that Feraligatr would have enough in the tank there to do enough to set up that Skarmory for a Cresselia knockout later on. But that's what the power of this non-Shadow Gator is going to be. If that was a Shadow Feraligatr, that Gator would have got knocked out by fast move pressure. It would not have been able to do what it did that game. So I think Soph really putting on a clinic with this this regular Feraligatr here, showing people why Pocket used it to win NAIC and why it's going to be a threat heading into Worlds in just a few weeks.
I see we have a very, very talented chat as well. SS Thorn says caster luck. Well, Thorn, you're going to get a lot of caster luck in this tournament because it's literally all casters. So somebody's going to get lucky on each side. Jamie says call the Sky Attack. I agree. Axon, you mentioned the Brave Bird win condition, right? Going straight for the Brave Bird, just hoping your opponent doesn't shield it. That was a really gutsy call by Soph in the final moments of that matchup.
Yeah, great calls on both sides. Even though it was a 2-0 win, Adelion made those battles very close. And I think as an opening matchup here, this was one of the best battles that we could see. Not much RPS, right? Honestly, this was a very flexible matchup between both sides. They both played it very well. And I think sophtoph now is setting herself up for a decent spot here to potentially win the Battle of the Casters.
I agree. Very, very well played. Adelion, like you said, brought it really close. I think the failed swap on that game number 1, trying to send in that Skarmory a bit too early. Soph calling the swap and not falling for it. I think that was what really sealed the game. And then here you did get the Moonblast debuff, the double Moonblast, and not calling the Brave Bird. So this could have gone either way. Literally just a couple of small decisions really determined it. But we have some exciting matches coming up here. I think it's going to be really hype because next up we've got LNDsAureo versus TzSpenx. Brazil versus Mexico. This is going to be a thrill.
Awesome. Let's pass it off over to Dunebug and to Speedy once again here for the next matchup.
All right. I'm joined by probably the most prolific regular season competitor in history. This is Dunebug 97. So glad you could join the Clash of the Casters stream. How are you feeling, champ?
Feeling great. This is a great opportunity. I'm really excited.
Heck yeah, man. I'm excited as well. We've got LNDsAureo versus TzSpenx. I was looking for TZ's team that he used to win that 7-Eleven competition. It wasn't an official Play Pokemon tournament, but he did win a tournament in Mexico on stage for 7-Eleven. I believe this is the team that he used. Meanwhile, Aureo's got the Gudra. He's got the Annihilate. I'm really curious. What is your read into these teams?
Yeah, so we got TzSpenx using one of my favorite cores this whole season. That Shadow Gligar, Shadow Whiscash core has been so strong for me this entire season. And I think that Shadow Whiscash is going to be very strong into LNDsAureo's team.
Looking at your own winning teams, Dune, I feel like the double ground strat, like you said, has been one of the more consistent factors. Maybe you move pieces around, you play Skeledirge, you play Shadow Pidgeot, but the double ground is definitely a staple. And you think that double ground strat will work? I mean, even in the face of Pokemon like Gudra and Skarmory, it's going to work?
Yeah, absolutely, because that Shadow Whiscash can really dish out damage very quickly. That Shadow Gligar is going to be a good way to really keep Annihilate and Charjabug at bay.
Mm-hmm.
And other than the Skarmory for the Gligar, that Gligar has so much play against the team. A lot of neutral potential.
Mm-hmm. I think you're right. I think Azumarill for TzSpenx could also be a bit of a wild card. Obviously, Gudra and Annihilate do not want to see it, but it does have some nice flex play against the majority of the team, maybe outside of that Charjabug. Well, champ, if you're ready, I'm ready to get into some battles. What do you say?
Let's do it.
All right, LNDsAureo on the left, TzSpenx on the right. Azumarill lead, very safe lead. No double ground, though, on this game number 1 team from TzSpenx.
Yeah, no double ground. The Azumarill versus Skarmory matchup is a pretty close matchup. I believe in the Zero Protect Shield matchup, Skarmory has to land a Sky Attack and a Brave Bird to take out the Azumarill. We see Oreo going for the Sky Attack. It does like about a quarter of the Azumarill's health.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming we're going to see an Ice Beam be thrown here on the Skarmory from TzSpenx.
Mm-hmm. I like the overcharge here by TZ, of course, maybe anticipating a switch in, anticipating a catch. Does land the Ice Beam into the Skarmory. Not too much damage, like you pointed out, Dune, but we're going to see another charge attack come here from the Azu. At this point, if you're TzSpenx, you're thinking, if he does Brave Bird, I can come in Skarmory and Steel Wing down. And then if it's Charjabug, I'll have to pivot, but otherwise I'm good. Actually,
and that's exactly what we see happen. We see the Skarmory card swap into the Skarmory that is met by the Shadow Quagsire from Oreo. Quagsire, the Shadow Quagsire has a pretty decent matchup because 3 Aqua Tails are almost close enough to almost take out the Skarmory.
And that's really cool, right? I think that's one of the bonuses of running the Shadow variant there. You don't even need to aim for the Stone Edge, but we see one coming through here anyway. TzSpenx not going to shield this up.
Yeah, and we see a Stone Edge from the Quagsire land on the Skarmory. That does so much damage. And do we see TzSpenx go for a Sky Attack or a Brave Bird here? The Sky Attack is thrown, and a Protect Shield is put up by the Shadow Quagsire. A second move is thrown from TzSpenx. And another Protect Shield put up by the Shadow Quagsire.
Exactly. Double shielding, looking for a big mud shot down, going down 0 to 2 shields.
LNDsAureo gets some mud shot down.
Exactly. Aureo able to get the full mud shot down. In comes the Azumarill. We saw it deploy 2 Ice Beams earlier, so it is just about out of energy. Stone Edge coming through here. This is going to be really close to KOing.
Yeah, the Stone Edge does take out the Azumarill, and now it's the Shadow Whiscash with 2 Protect Shields versus 3 Pokemon on Oreo's side remaining.
Yeah, I really like this strategy by Aureo because if you look at his team, right, he's got the Gudra. He was worried about Azu. He's worried about Skarmory. He eliminated both of those threats. And that's why he was so willing to go down 0-2 shields, because now Gudra's neutral Dragon Breaths will melt just about anything in the back.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the Shadow Whiscash can hang on from the Dragon Breaths from Oreo's side.
We're going to find out. Mud Bomb does come through, does KO the Shadow Quag. Coming in with the Gudra, looking for that Dragon Breath pressure. No Blizzard on Whiscash. That's so 2021. We're going to see a charge attack come through here any second.
Yeah, and those Dragon Bats are really adding up against the Whiscash. I don't think it's going to be able to hang on in the end here.
Yeah, I agree. Dragon Breath's piling up. Whiscash looking for the double Mud Bombs. Does a catch need to be made here, Dune? What do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the Shadow Whiscash is going to get to the second move.
Oh, and it does!
Oh, it does! It barely hangs on. But that Skarmory is still healthy enough, I believe, to Steel Wing down the Whiscash.
Whiscash hangs on by a whisker, but here comes Skarmory to Steel Wing down the water and ground type. That's a very close game 1 victory there for LNDsAureo.
Absolutely. That Gudra in the end was so oppressive against TzSpenx's team. Once that Azumarill was out of the way, the Gudra had so much play.
Yeah, it really did. And not only the Azumarill, but also the Skarmory, right? I think that TzSpenx maybe showed his hand a little bit early and really kind of paved the way for Aureo to bring in that Gudra. But also, let's talk about the team from TzSpenx. Leading Azu, Skarmory in the back, ABA weak to Charge Bug. No respect for the bug.
No respect. Yeah, I feel like TZ must have thought that the Gligar and Whiscash were enough pressure to fend off the Charge Bug. And he was correct. Oreo did not bring that Charge Bug.
So question for you, Dune. If you are TZ, what do you do here in game number 2? Do you pivot to that trusty double ground when your back is against the wall, or do you play something else?
I think if I'm TZ, that Shadow Quag was a bit of a problem. I think you have to try to bully the Shadow Quag enough to potentially win the next game. So maybe we'll see some Vigoroth, because Vigoroth has a pretty decent matchup against Shadow Quagsire.
I think Vigoroth, Whiscash are both safe picks that we could see here in game number 2. Let's get right into it. LNDsAureo versus TzSpenx, Brazil versus Mexico. Oh,
and
no,
there is
disaster.
The Vigoroth, but it's met by the Annihilate. Oh, no.
Oh.
We see the Azumarill safe swap, and Oreo does not have a clean answer to the Azumarill. So we're going to see the Annihilate stay in and throw a Shadow Ball.
I think the number one thing he's concerned with is maintaining switch advantage, right? Because Annihilate just dominates Vigoroth in every shade, shape, and form. We see the Skarmory counter swap here after the Shadow Ball takes the shield. Ice Beam coming through here. Switch Charmer's displaced just a little bit, but not too much. I think Aureo can still control this matchup, but TZ wants to prevent that.
And I really like this counter swap by Oreo because we have seen that the Ice Beams do not do much damage to Skarmory, and Skarmory can take 2 of them pretty easily.
Ice Beam coming through here from the Azumarill. Bubble did get buffed recently, but it still doesn't do that much damage to his Skarmory. Dipping down into the red, Skarmory going to look for the Sky Attack.
Yeah, going for the Sky Attack. Get in the Protect Shield from the Sky Attack. TZ expecting the Brave Bird.
Expecting the Brave Bird, doesn't get it. Trying to outpace, but here comes a third Ice Beam, forcing with that final Protect Shield. You're right, Dune. I think that the Skarmory is in full control of the matchup. I think Brave Bird might just barely be enough. Might need a few Steel Wings. Oh, actually, the counter swap. TZ
the
knows.
Counter swap to Skarmory. That is a brilliant counter swap. Taking advantage of the desync switch timers.
Exactly. Bailing out the Azu to hopefully deal with that Annihilate later as well. Instant no shield by Aureo. He knows this is just Sky Attack, but it's not. Psych. It's a Brave Bird.
That's a massive Brave Bird. It does so much damage to that Shadow Quagsire, but it didn't take it out. So now the Skarmory is 3 times defense debuffed.
Insane Aqua Tail coming through. Not that high damage, but after that debuff, it absolutely wallops the Skarmory. Second Aqua Tail will KO. What do you do here if you're TZ? Do you look for a bubble down or a counter down?
I think if I am TZ, I think we see a bubble down come here against this Shadow Quagsire. You want to get some more energy on your Azumarill.
Yeah, Vigoroth is basically a dead weight on your team when you know there's an Annihilate in the back. Can't get to the Aqua Tail. Actually reaching for the Vigoroth. Wants to soak a charge attack. Can't get out.
Can't
Here
quite
comes
get the
Skarmory.
swap. to catch the Brave Bird. And now this Vigoroth is a monkey that is not going to enjoy the counters from this Annihilate.
Not at all. Oh, and we have a top left here from TZ, or maybe thought about a top left. Yeah, a Azumarill got scraped off the field like a bug from a windshield wiper by that Brave Bird.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Oh man, that normal type Vigoroth does not like the ghost type that has counter.
No, very well fought by TzSpenx. I really like how he tried to wiggle out of that situation, right? Making the instant swap, trying to double shield the Azu, even, trying to pivot into the Skarmory when he recognized the Brave Bird was on the way. Still, everything he tried just wasn't enough. LNDsAureo is going to win this series 2-0.
Yeah, that was such a great effort by TZ. Tried to get that swap to the Vigoroth. That could have potentially made a difference in that game, but unfortunately it just did not happen.
Yeah, I think so. If we play it out, right, I think TZ was maybe 1 or 2 seconds away from the swap. So it was super close. If Aureo sees the Vigoroth switch in, he probably will undercharge the Brave Bird and then allow the Vigoroth to counter down, come in with the Annihilate and counter down the Vigoroth anyway, loading up on energy for the Azu matchup. So it would have been tough, but TZ's played to his win condition.
100%. And yeah, I think we're ready for the next matchup. Should be a good one.
All right. Let's do it.
Send over to again. Myself and Axon.
Hey, Dune, that was an awesome battle that we just got to see. There. But now we have Rise to Occasion coming up. I think a player that you know very well. I think you have probably the most experience out of anyone in the world fighting this guy. How do you think this matchup's going to go? I see two very different teams here.
Yeah, a very interesting team on the part of Koning. That Shadow Empoleon has always been a very interesting pick in this meta. It has a lot of core breaking ability. It really does not want to see anything that has counter or any mud boys. But other than that, it really can dish out the damage.
Yeah, I agree. We haven't really seen a lot of Shadow Empoleon. And as Steve said at the start of the stream, we actually didn't see any of KoningLionheart's battles here on the first stream, on the day number 1, basically, of this tournament. So seeing it here, it's very unique. Seeing that this was able to overcome a lot of the other casters here, it's going to be interesting to see what Rise can do into it. I think looking at these teams, Goodra from Rise's side actually looks pretty safe here. Obviously, that Empoleon, as you were talking about, probably the best answer to it because it does resist Dragon Breath, but it has Thunder Punch on this Goodra to have coverage for that Empoleon, for that Mandibuzz. I feel like Goodra for Rise could be a key player this game.
Yeah, another Pokemon that I feel like will probably have to be brought on Rise's side, that Charjabug. Because without bringing that Charjabug, the Empoleon Manticore is going to really shine if that Charjabug does not get in the right position.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Charjabug into Shadow Quagsire isn't quite as bad for the Charjabug as you might expect. If you start shielding up Stone Edges properly or no shield Aqua Tails and you have an energy lead, it's actually able to be flipped in certain scenarios with that Charjabug, making it so you can have play basically against everything on the entire team of Koning with both this Goodra and this Charjabug. I think a lot of electric type damage is going to be very critical for Rise. I'm excited to see game number 1 here, and I'd say let's get into the battles here.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, game number 1, that is a terrible lead here for Koning because he is ADA weak to this Charjabug. That is not great, but I think as we all know, Cresselia, very bulky. I think it's able to win the Zero Shield matchup here as long as Koning plays it out properly.
Yeah, if Koning has a really well-trained Cresselia can take 2 X-Scissors in the Zero Protect Shield matchup, and we will see if it is able to.
It did survive that first
Moonblast come here. Yep, it did take that X-Scissor very well. Moonblast coming here from Koning. It's going to do about half of Charjabug's remaining health, and it does go through.
Oh, but Rise knowing exactly how to play this matchup. Or, he actually gets a little greedy over farm, so you're not thinking that this X-Scissor would knock out. This Moonblast is going to draw a shield. Rise has to think, if they're staying in this matchup, there's a chance that his Charjabug has play in the back line. He wants to get as much energy as he can out of this. And he knows even if there is something like that Quagsire in the back, he has X-Scissor for it. So no matter what, shielding that move and getting an undercharge, unfortunately not enough to actually matter that game. It could be useful to have this Charjabug later on.
Yeah, and look at the back line. You see that Rise to Occasion also has the Annihilate waiting for that Empoleon. So once this Charjabug goes down, and we see a Safe Swap into the Goodra. Interesting. Very interesting play by Rise.
I don't hate this play because he knows how safe his Gudra is going to be here. If there is a Mandibuzz, he'd probably draw it out in this matchup so his Annihilate wouldn't have to see it. But if there's anything else, like this Empoleon, he's probably just set himself up for a very good farm down with his own Annihilate. He might be able to Shadow Ball that Quagsire and finish off this game very soon using his Annihilate in the back.
Yeah, now we see the Empoleon, the Shadow Empoleon double up on the Drillpex here. The Drillpex should take out the Gudra, and then I probably expect the Charge Bug to come back again. No, we see the Annihilate come in. So we're going to see a Drillpex thrown by Koning onto the Annihilate. No move is thrown.
It seems like Koning must see the writing on the wall here. He knows that his Quagsire does have a lot to overcome this game, and I think that Empoleon, while it could have got a Drill Peck off, Rise still no shields this. He could survive this Aqua Tail as long as he lands the Shadow Ball before this next Aqua Tail is reached. It doesn't really matter whether or not that Drill Peck was actually thrown, and Shadow Ball is going to come onto this Quag. Is it going to be enough to knock it out?
It is going to knock out the Quagsire. And Rise of Occasion taking game 1, getting a really good lead with that Charge Bug into the Crest and Empoleon core.
Yeah, as we were talking about, Gudra and Charger Bug are just so safe for him. He knew that, and so he knew even though he did win that lead matchup there using his Charger Bug into that Cresselia, he didn't have to let it go down the second that the next Pokemon came in from KoningLionheart's side. So instead of letting Charger Bug go down, safe swapping your other safe Pokemon, your Gudra here, so that you can save your Charger Bug just in case you needed it in the backline against a Mandibuzz. That was a very heads-up play. I think Rise to Occasion played that game number 1 almost perfectly.
Yeah, Rise really knew how strong that Empoleon could be, so he brought his 2 best answers to the Empoleon.
Yeah, I think we were talking a lot about Empoleon and how Empoleon is basically the best answer to Gudra here, but we saw how much damage those Dragon Breaths, resisted Dragon Breaths were doing. I think at that point, if you're up a little bit of energy, you might even be able to flip the 2-shield matchup straight Aqua Tail as the Gudra. That is crazy if it's true. It seems like it might be, because Shadow Empoleon, it's not the bulkiest steel type out there. So maybe it's going to be that Cresselia that would have to come if you actually want to be able to neutralize this Gudra. But as we saw, Gudra, or Cresselia rather, was lined up into that Charge Bug. It's kind of that cycle, right? You want your Cresselia to neutralize one safe Pokemon, but then it's weak to the other. So how is Koning going to adjust here in game number 2?
Yeah, I think if you're Koning, you might have to bring more neutral answers to that Charge Bug, but that Charge Bug is just so strong on Rise's side. We'll have to see how Koning adjusts.
Right. Well, this is a very situation here. The Charge Bug lead. Is this just game number 1?
It's the carbon copy of the game number 1 here.
Yeah, back-to-back team run-backs by our 2 opponents here. X's are being thrown once again by Rise to Occasion. Although this move doesn't 2-shot them from full health, it does do a lot of damage. I would love to see that this Cresselia is here, or Annihilate, and our Gudra once again get to avoid this.
100%. And once again, we're going to see this move blast come out of the component. And it's going to land on the Charge Bug. Once again, does about half its health. And we'll see if Rise to Occasion puts the X's here.
It's like this is playing out the exact same way. Number 1 here. Koning realizes that shield advantage is going to be nice for him in this game. But what is he going to do in the backline matchup here? Because the last time we played this out, it was a very dominant win for Rise. So how is Koning going to adjust with both of the backline Pokemon here?
Yeah, if I was Koning, I was going to expect maybe a hard swap for the Quagsire, knowing how safe it is in this matchup.
First difference this game, that undercharge by Rise was actually successful in the sense that he does get 1 more Volt Switch, but it leads to this Grass Knot landing from KoningLionheart's Cresselia. Now our Charge Bug is so much lower. Rise might be more inclined to just sack this Charge Bug at this point. Maybe try to get off 2 X-Scissors and let his Charge Bug go down so he has switch advantage in this game.
Yeah, I think Quagsire will be able to butt-shot down before the second X-Scissor. We're going to see. It's going to be really close. And Rise does get the X-Scissor off.
Charge Bug just bulky enough to survive this move, or to survive the mudshot damage and get this next shield from this Quagsire. But this Quagsire's farm down is actually going to be somewhat problematic here for Rise. How do you want to take this energy? You have Aqua Tails that are going to do a lot of damage to Ape. And now that Ape comes in, we're going to see Empoleon into Gudra as the final matchup.
And that's a much better situation than we saw in game number 1. Quagsire's going to throw a couple Aqua Tails on this Annihilate. Oh, and there's a catch on the Gudra.
This is an amazing catch here by Rise. He knew the back-to-back moves were very likely coming, and now you don't have to worry about a Stone Edge on your Gudra. With that said, if this sets up a farm down for this Empoleon, and we can get 2 Drill Pecks against this Annihilate later on, this could still be KoningLionheart's game.
Yeah, now that the Aqua Tails landed on the Annihilate, the Steel Wing damage is going to really add up as well.
Yeah, Rise, knowing he needs to shield something this game, even though Annihilate is a good matchup into this Empoleon, if you no-shielded that move there, then the Steel Wings at that point would just start ripping through the Annihilate's health. So Rise chooses to shield this up, and then Koning as well shields up this move. What is going to happen? We have the Steel Wing, we have
And
the Drill
Steel Wing
Peck,
down on
and
the
we have the
Gudra.
Drill Peck against this Annihilate.
Yeah, absolutely brilliantly played by Koning. Getting that Steel Wing down on the Gudra, coming out with the Drill Peck for the Annihilate, and that is enough to take it out. And
so
yeah,
I am
take the
getting
game.
word that Rise may have lost a counter that game. And if that is the case, he could have got a move at the end of that matchup there, flipping how it would go. He was obviously one counter away from a charge attack against that Shadow Empoleon. So if that is the case, I feel like that means that Rise could have actually won that game. I'm getting word from Steve that because of that lost counter and reviewing the footage, Koning actually ended up forfeiting that match because he knew Annihilate would have got to that charge move there. So very good sportsmanship by Koning. Honestly, very well played by him too in a very tricky matchup. And Rise getting the 2-0 victory here.
Yeah, very, very nice sportsmanship by Koning. And yeah, giving that win to Rise, knowing the situation where that counter would have mattered on Rise's end. So, but yeah, very, very nice, very nicely played by both sides in that game too.
Yeah, even though there was a little bit of a bad situation with the game state there at the end, I think that doesn't take anything away from how these battlers played this out. Koning, he knew that he was in such a bad situation in game 2 because he probably expected the run back from Rise as well. So he played nearly perfectly out of one of the worst case scenarios he could have been in there. Charger Bug core breaking him so hard. But Shadow Empoleon, it was maybe not the best Pokemon for the specific matchup, but it was able to put in a lot of work, and it was a unique Pokemon that we probably won't see too much more going forward in this tournament, but it is always a treat to see when someone can use it so masterfully.
Absolutely. That Shadow Empoleon was a very nice pick by the side of Koning. And it really had so much play in that matchup. It was fun to see.
I'd say with that, that's probably a good time here to toss it off here to our next group of casters. It's Axon, which is myself, and then Speedy's Chief casting our next matchup. Very excited to see what our next round has in store.
All right, champ, let's do it. We've got a Bastiodon on the screen.
Steve would be proud. We see that Basti. We don't see the Whalmer, but at least the Australian special is here for us on No Mimi's side. That is going to be a very interesting thing to see. And then Fishy Legs here. This is actually a very familiar team for me. This is the team that I myself used to win the World Champion Brawl when we did the thing with Dunebug and Emmy Beetle Dancing Rob a couple months ago, but he has the Shadow Quagsire over the Shadow Whiscash on his team. So I really like that team by him, and it's going to be interesting to see how we can overcome this Bastiodon here.
I'm looking at this team from Fishy Legs. You've got Shadow Gligar with Dig. You've got Vigoroth with Counter. You've got Quagsire with what I assume is Aqua Tail, or it could be Mud Bomb. And you've got Registeel with Focus Blast. I don't think there's any play at all for Bastiodon. And if No Mimi brings it, that is going to be a wild choice.
Yeah, Basti's main thing here is it's going to try to RPS the Mandibuzz plus Cresselia duo, which aside from Bastiodon, not a lot core breaks those two. So Fishy may have been relying on those two Pokemon for a lot of this tournament. I guess we'll have to see what kind of duos he's going to bring this game. But I feel like his Shadow Quagsire is very safe. The Altaria, it can still take Stone Edges, and that Cresselia is probably like the one true answer. But No Mimi also has a double Ghost lineup with Annihilate and that Shadow Sableye. That also means that our Mandibuzz might actually have quite a bit of play here.
Yeah, actually, the more I look at it, I think that Cresselia Mandibuzz core from Fishy Legs does have a ton of play into the remaining 5 there for No Mimi. So it might be a little bit of a guessing game, a little bit of roulette going on here as we decide our lead swaps and closers.
Yeah, Vigoroth is a Pokemon that has been very safe for a lot of trainers here at this tournament, but this time we see No Mimi with one of those Ghost-type Pokemon that does just hard shut it down. Probably the worst possible matchup here for the Vigoroth is that Annihilate. So even though we do have answers for this Bastiodon, the Bastiodon plus Annihilate core could actually be pretty strong for No Mimi. Bastiodon obviously does lose to that Vigoroth, to that Registeel. Annihilate is easily able to round out those matchups. So if you want to bring Basti as your hard check to the Mandibuzz, which honestly could put in a lot of work if you don't bring the Bastiodon, I could see the case for that.
Yeah, Basti double Ghost, right? You could even do that. I think the Shadow Sableye has a tremendous amount of flex play. It's going to have Power Gem, which can definitely hit back against Pokemon like the Mandibuzz. So I think Shadow Sableye comes no matter what No Mimi assembles around it. I think is the question in my mind that I'm really looking to answer. Let's go ahead and jump into these games, champ. We've got Fishy Legs 2 on the left and No Mimi on the right. Hey, There we go. Shadow Sableye.
Yep, you called it. Shadow Sableye, a very flexible Pokemon, but we have to keep in mind, in this day and age, Shadow Sableye is slow. It is so slow. Shadow Quagsire here, able to outpace the Aqua Tails. It's able to bait the Stone Edges, which if this is a Stone Edge and it goes no shielded, could nearly one-shot this Sableye. Luckily, though, that is just an Aqua Tail. We do survive it, and now I think Sableye can probably take a shield advantage this game if our Fishy Legs trainer here with this Quagsire is going to shield up this attack.
It is a Shadow Quagsire, right? So you do have to respect the foul plate damage. No, Mimi. Oh my gosh. The Quagsire hangs on by 1 HP and is able to get the Aqua Tail. This is a heartbreaker for No Mimi.
Yeah, No Mimi, though, knows that the Shadow Quagsire and Altaria core for the backline is going to be very solid with switch advantage, though. And this Sableye, even into the Mandibuzz, is still going to be able to put in work. I don't hate that shield, but we see the instant pivot out to the Altaria. This is interesting. I think that No Mimi is making the read right now that Registeel is just a little bit too RPS to bring into their team.
Yes.
So bringing in this Altaria as a safe swap, saving the Sableye for a potential matchup that it might be a little bit better into in the backline, maybe a Cresselia, maybe something like that. It is going to be pivotal to keep that Sableye alive.
No, just absolute world champ read right there, right? Registeel was the only thing that No Mimi would really fear at that juncture, and it is not in the back. It's a Gligar actually going with the Quagsire double flyer strat. Fishy Legs is in trouble because the Shadow Gligar is down in terms of energy.
Yeah, with that said, though, I think Shadow Gligar is going to be able to land this next air release. Probably get a farm down on this Altaria, but I think you do have to double shield this if you want to have any sort of health coming out of this matchup. And this could be a little bit interesting depending on how both of these trainers played out. Moonblast, a very smart decision, does more raw damage than this Sky Attack. It will likely either get a knockout or draw the shield from Fishy Legs.
Eyes on the switch timer. Is it up? It is. Actually, Altaria going to stay in here and almost gets the better of the Gligar. Another 1 HP survive.
Okay, even though that Gligar did survive here, Sableye can Shadow Claw this down. Shadow Quagsire is still in the back line here. Going to be a very close endgame matchup. Dig does get shielded up. That Gligar will knock you to a second move. We might have a Mandibuzz here that's going to have to take a lot of Rock-type damage, but we also have the ability to resist these Shadow Claws, resist the Mud Shots as well. So it's really going to come down to raw charge move pressure. Does Quagsire have what it takes to get to both a Stone Edge and an Aqua Tail here to close out this matchup against the Mandibuzz? Or is a Stone Edge going to be enough to knock out Mandy?
That's the question, right? I don't think that this Quagsire can withstand 2 Dark Pulses. It's going to be really close. Actually, it might be able to, but the Snarl damage is going to be the wild card factor here. Looking for the Stone Edge any moment now. Mandibuzz has so much stored energy, able to get to the second Dark Pulse. I don't know, Champ. Do you think that this Mandibuzz can Snarl down the Quagsire? Is that possible?
It definitely can't Snarl down, but can it get to the air release? We see bad timing by No Mimi giving a full sneak over to this Mandibuzz. Now this Mandibuzz is only 2 Snarls at most away from a move, but that Stone Edge nearly knocking it out. Even if we knock out this Quagsire, I think a Shadow Claw down is going to be more than enough to knock out this Mandibuzz.
I can't believe that Fishy Legs has survived on 1 or 2 HP on all 3 of his Pokemon in this game. Here comes Sableye. Shadow Claw, resisted or not, is going to be enough.
Shadow Sableye proving why speed doesn't matter. If you just have raw damage here, it is able to survive these moves. It is able to Shadow Claw down the Dark type, and its coverage, its flexibility here, overcoming its lack of raw speed.
Like, are you kidding me, right? We saw the Quagsire survive the foul play in the lead matchup with just 1 HP. Then we saw the Gligar hang on just barely long enough to get to the dig. And then we saw that final Pokemon there too, just Mandibuzz refusing to go away. I mean, a lot of things went wrong for No Mimi, but she was able to brave that storm and pick up the win.
I think that says a lot about Fishy Legs' Pokemon, too. I think he must have very, very high-ranked Pokemon here, bulky Pokemon designed to be able to survive these kinds of moves. He was confident that his Shadow Quagsire could get off that next Aqua Tail. He obviously could have gone for a Stone Edge to one-shot the Sableye, but he knew the consistent play, just go for 2 Aqua Tails there, get the 2 moves off, and guarantee either shield advantage or a lot of damage against that Sableye. And so this next game, it's going to be interesting to see how he shakes it up, because Shadow Sableye, although it was probably in one of the better matchups for Fishy Legs here, having it against that Shadow Quagsire, it was still a very awkward Pokemon to deal with. So is he going to try to lead Mandibuzz or just hard read where that Sableye is going to be? Or is he going to just kind of keep doing what he's doing? Because the thing is, the scary thing, he didn't bring a single Pokemon weak to Shadow Sableye that game, but it felt like he did. All of those Pokemon had a lot of neutral play into it, but Shadow Sableye, it doesn't care.
Exactly. I think Mandibuzz is the only solid answer to that Pokemon, so he's got to figure out a way to play around it. I think he can safely predict it in game number 2. My question, though, Axon, where are the Steel types? Do we see Registeel? Do we see Bastiodon? Let's find out. This is game number 2. Fishy Legs on the left. No Mimi is on the right. The Steel comes out.
You are calling these leads here. First it was the Shadow Sableye, now you're calling the Registeel. This is fantastic though for No Mimi, knowing that Shadow Sableye has so much raw damage. Being the Shadow Sableye here, you have almost no drawbacks in this matchup. Lock-on still only do 1 damage to you, and you are just doing 20% more damage to this Registeel here, making it so much more awkward for this very clunky Steel-type Pokemon. We talk about how Sableye is slow, Registeel is even slower.
Yeah, it's such a game changer being a Shadow Sableye in this matchup. Zap Cannon comes through, does get the debuff, but I honestly don't think it matters that much. Going to farm up as many Shadow Claws as possible and then throw the foul play. If we get another 1 HP survive here, Exon, I might lose my mind.
It could happen though. Shadow Sableye, depending on how bulky it is, could either knock this out or, okay, we do see the shield, but do we shield up the Zap Cannon? There's a chance we can survive this, but no, we know Shadow Sableye after that game number 1 is such a strong pick. And once his Registeel is out of the way, shields down Altaria is a nightmare for Fishy Legs. We see another debuff here, and now what are we going to see? Almost perfect overfarm here to get to the back-to-back moves. We are 1 Shadow Claw away. Are they going to shield? Are they going to let this go? Let's find out.
Double debuff Shadow Sableye doesn't have a lot of utility outside of this matchup. I expect the instant pivot out because you're just so far behind. But do we see it? No, actually, no. Mimi staying in here, going to overcharge, trying to catch a charge attack onto the Altaria, and here it comes.
Yeah, so we have a lot of energy on that Sableye, but shields are down. So if we ever have a move coming out of this matchup here as the Shadow Gligar, you can CMP on a foul play, make it so they only get 1 of those 2 foul plays off. But if you don't, if you can't overfarm here, or if you have to use a shield, then we are in a very bad situation. This Altaria is so safe, as I said, once that Registeel goes down. So a very smart play by No Mimi to come in with this once that Reggie goes down. Another Aerialist comes through, but it's so bulky here with this Altaria. We survive that and get a Sky Attack off before they can knock us out.
Yeah, Altaria is such a nuisance. I think it's definitely going to be an impact player in the World Championships coming up in just a couple of weeks. It does pick up the knockout into the Gligar. In comes Cresselia. This is an interesting position to be in, Axon. Is there a way for Fishy Legs to win this game?
I feel like this is probably the one Pokemon that could have a lot of play in the backline, but we have to keep in mind, Sableye, it does have energy. We have to also keep in mind this Altaria is getting a move off. You can one-shot the Quagsire with a Grass Knot here. If you can Psycho Cut this down, okay, we see an interesting play here by No Mimi coming in with the Sableye, but this Cresselia has so much energy. If you can Moonblast this and then Grass Knot the Quagsire and then Psycho Cut down the Cresselia, there might still be a way to win this game as Fishy Legs.
I feel like you're reading off a grocery list, just all the things that need to go right. Grass Knot, step 1, complete, does pick up the knockout. There is a Quagsire in the back. No Protect Shields remain for the Cresselia, and the switch timer is not going to be fresh for a long time here for No Mimi. She comes in with the Quagsire. I think that Cresselia might have this matchup, actually.
That is the best comeback I think I've seen in a while here. Cresselia, it's not a very offensive Pokemon, but it's going to be able to knock out that Sableye. Okay, we do see an opportunity reach. Quagsire does survive on 1 HP, as Speedy as Chief would say, but we see this move come through. Is it enough to flip this matchup? I don't know. Is this Dragon Breath down or Psycho Cut down range? It's going to be a race to the end.
It doesn't matter. It's Grass Knot range for Altaria. Look how weak it is. And here comes Cresselia. Double Grass Knots. The reverse sweep KOing the Sableye, KOing the Quagsire, and now adding the Altaria to the list. Sign the obituaries because it's done. That was a sweep by No Mimi's Cresselia.
That was a masterclass of what Cresselia can do in the right hands. Cresselia, a very bulky Pokemon. Obviously, Shadow Sableye has such a good matchup into it, but when it's down shields, when it's down health, when it's in Grass Knot range, it's not that good of a matchup there. I feel like if you're the Sableye user there that game, the best way to win that, in my opinion, is to try to make that Cresselia drain energy before coming into Sableye. Make it so you can try to get off 2 foul plays, but it was always going to be an issue if Fishy Legs knew how to perfectly manage his energy. Always keep some energy there to Grass Knot not only that Sableye, but also that Quagsire.
Yeah, I'm trying to think through the possible win conditions. We called out when No Mimi switched into the Sableye in the middle of the Psycho Cut and through the foul play. That was a really nice play, but she was also just 1 Shadow Claw away from the back-to-backs. So the question is, if you're the competitor on the right, where could you have found that second Shadow Claw? Because I think if you find that second Shadow Claw and avoid a CMP and you're able to get off the first foul play and then the second, I think that entire game flips. But it was really, really difficult. Fishy Legs did a great job of sealing up that matchup and not providing that window for any kind of lose condition to occur.
Yeah, I think for No Mimi to win that game, Fishy Legs would have actually had to make a misplay. I don't think it would be anything that No Mimi could do themselves to win this one. I feel like Fishy Legs would have had to have poor energy management, maybe throw an instant Grass Knot against a Quagsire when you see it come in. If he knows to overfarm, though, always keep enough energy on your crest to threaten that Sableye when it comes back in. I think that Fishy Legs was just in such a commanding spot, despite being in some kind of less than favorable matchups. So I'm going to be interested to see how does this evolve in a decisive game 3 here. Both of these trainers have won a game. Fishy Legs has not had the most favorable leads so far. Shadow Sableye into Registeel was pretty uncomfortable. Shadow Quagsire into the Shadow Sableye as well was a little bit bad just because they did end up shielding and getting so much out of their Sableye. So what is the adjustment from Fishy Legs? Does he think another Shadow Sableye lead is going to come, or is there going to be a new lead from No Mimi's side?
I'm calling Altaria lead from No Mimi. Let's see what she decided to do and what Fishy Legs does in order to answer. We've got Altaria. I have not seen these battles, Chad. Disclaimer, I have not.
Get this man into the play Pokemon circuit. He is on fire with these reads. I think if Speediest Chief wanted, he could become our next play Pokemon world champion, but he is, giving us a little bit of a break here, being a caster instead. But this matchup, although we do have Altaria into a fighter, I'd say Vigoroth is still in a very decent spot here.
Yeah, I think Vigoroth definitely with Rock Slide, right? It can go toe-to-toe or wing to claw in this matchup. Vigoroth going to look for a body slam to get the knockout here. That's all it needs to do now. And now Altaria's kind of forced to shield. If you're No Mimi, you have basically a very similar line to what you brought the past 2 games. You have your Quagsire, you have your Shadow Sableye. Does she want a control switch? Actually, the question was answered for me.
A very interesting swap out here. I guess hard calling that Bastiodon is not going to be brought. Also, Fishy Legs, knowing that Annihilate has not been brought, knowing that Vigoroth would be so safe here. But the Shadow Quagsire, I would not say it's the hardest answer, especially down energy into a Mandibuzz. So depending on how these two trainers play this out, it could be a very interesting backline, especially because we've already seen the normal type. We've already seen the dark type. I think Shadow Sableye is going to be in a great spot against whatever that third Pokemon could be here.
Yeah, I agree. I think that as you kind of cross off process of elimination, you open the door here for Sableye to have a really nice run. Shadow Quagsire going to try to hold on after this Dark Pulse comes through, and it does. You look for an Aqua Tail here, I assume. Actually, no, going for broke, going for the Stone Edge here, Axon.
Surviving on 1 HP, getting the Stone Edge off, and knocking out the Mandibuzz or drawing the final. So we actually knock out the Mandy with our Mudboy. In comes the final Pokemon. This is going to be so interesting. It's a Cresselia up energy. Can this Shadow Sableye have what it takes to withstand the onslaught of Moonblast plus Grass Knot here and survive? Oh, but we see an attempted catch on the Cresselia. We absorbed all of this energy on our Vigoroth, and now we have energy also on Cresselia. We overfarmed.
This is the challenge of late game energy management. Do you know exactly where this Vigoroth is? Is it going to close in on the body slam? Can you get the Dragon Breath down? All these questions will be answered and more as the Vigoroth does get to the body slam. This is clever though. Do you let Altaria go? Because I don't think you can even Shadow Claw down the Vigoroth.
Shadow Claws might be resisted, but I think Shadow Sableye, it's probably its best hope at this point to try to. If you go down shields here, if you shielded that, Moonblast one-shots our Sableye. We have to hope that we can Shadow Claw down before 2 rock slides are reached. We will have to double up on our foul plays, but what can this Vigoroth do? Do we get the Shadow Claw down here? It's going to be so close. We get it! We have a shield. We have the double foul play. Cresselia is going to be knocked out by this Shadow Sableye.
Call it. Call it. That's game right there. That was absolutely gruesome, vicious, double resisted Shadow Claw down, double foul plays already. Both barrels loaded, stocked, and emptied. Shadow Sableye strikes back.
Yeah, I think No Mimi knew that even if you couldn't Shadow Claw down that Vigoroth, the only way that you win the game is if you can somehow. So it doesn't matter if you know if you can or not. You just have to go for it. Save your shield for that potential Moonblast in the back line. And No Mimi able to take the decisive game 3 here, winning 2-1 against Fishy Legs. A very, very close set. Every single one of those battles was a masterclass in how to play Pokemon GO PvP. It was a lot of neutral play. Shadow Sableye proving why it is not something that you want to disrespect going into the World Championships, and especially not in the World Champ or in the Caster Brawl here.
I just want to emphasize your point one more time, Axon. I feel like a lot of people like to make the joke, right? That casters are casters because they're not in competitive shape, because they are retired, so to speak, right? They're not at the level that they need to be. But those games were tremendous. Those games, I feel like you could see those take place at any regional across the world and you would not miss a beat. You'd say, yeah, this is a top 16 matchup, a top 4 matchup. Those games are awesome.
No, exactly. That could be a grand finals right there. I mean, I wouldn't be too happy seeing a Basti get that far, but it's happened before. But luckily, Basti did not actually get used in these games here. But I feel like just the level of play, especially as we're getting further and further into these tournaments, every single battle, it's not RPS. Honestly, I don't know if we've seen like a single RPS match this tournament. It's been so much flexible play. The casters always knowing when and how to play to their win conditions, even on the most unlikely of circumstances here.
Yeah, I got to say, Axon, that was a thrill. No Basti, no problem. No Mimi advances in our casters clash, but I'm going to have to break your heart here. I'm going to have to break your heart here, champ, because this next matchup, I know you're excited for, but I do believe it is myself and the Doombug.
I wish I could cast that, but I'm going to be so happy to watch it. So good luck to you guys, and I can't wait to see who comes out on top.
Yeah, here we go. We got the big one. Inadequance versus HomeSliceHenry. And we see right off the bat, Inadequance bringing that coveted Giratina origin. He is so known for that.
Giratina origin, Wigglytuff core, right? He's bringing the Wiggles. He's bringing the Charmer. He's got the double normal. He's actually got double fairy, double normals. This is going to be a very interesting and tough team for HomeSliceHenry to work through. Talking about these competitors, you mentioned that Inadequance, right, is the big one, right? He's definitely proved himself not only in grassroots, but also in play Pokemon and in casting. HomeSliceHenry, I think, is a sleeper pick. I think he has every tool he needs to win this tournament. So how do you think this matchup is going to go, champ?
Yeah, looking at the matchup here, HomeSliceHenry, that Vigoroth might be completely unchecked. There's no counter user on Inadequance's side. And also, if I'm not mistaken, that team that Inadequance is bringing, it looks very, very familiar.
It does. I believe it was one of his, maybe the Utrecht Regional Championship or special event, I should say. I believe that is the team that he played. Little Talonflame spice there, a little Azu backup. And we do have movesets reveals as well. I believe HomeSliceHenry is in the chat saying that the Wigglytuff knows Swift, and he's correct.
Yes, it does. We'll see if Wigglytuff can be very swiftful here in this matchup.
All right, champ. I'm going to put you in the driver's seat here. If you're HomeSliceHenry taking on the Dapper Dutchman Inadequance, what Pokemon are you going to lead?
I think we see Vigoroth lead. It's just too safe not to lead right now because, like I said before, there's no counter user on Inadequance's side. Vigoroth is one of the best answers to Giratina on Henry's side right now.
All right, the Dapper Dutchman, HomeSliceHenry. Let's see what we get here in game number 1. Utrecht special event champion versus one of our most favorite YouTubers. We see Cresselia lead, but there's Vigoroth in the back. Yeah,
we see the Cresselia lead into the Azumarill, and Inadequance going straight to the Vigoroth. And this is still a positive matchup for the Cresselia.
Like you pointed out, no counter user, or excuse me, no Annihilate on either side. So the Vigoroth is so incredibly safe. Going to go for the Grass Knot here, Cresselia versus Vigoroth.
Yeah, and in this matchup, we do know that one Grass Knot and one Moonblast is typically enough to take out Vigoroth. And we see the Grass Knot thrown, and HomeSlice goes immediately to his own Vigoroth.
Yeah, this is a Swaggeroth, right? It's got the cap hanging off of its ear there. Body Slam coming through. Energy Advantage is in Inadequance's court, but he's down in the yellow. Does he get you another Body Slam?
It doesn't look like Inadequance will get to the other Body Slam. We see the full farm down. That is devastating for Inadequance.
Going for the Body Slam here, trying to chip down. I think Henry gets to 2 Body Slams, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we will see 2 Body Slams thrown on this Azumarill. And we see a Rock Slide that actually does a little bit more damage than the Body Slam. So a very smart play on Henry's side. And that puts the Azumarill about 40% health. 40% health chipped away.
1486 CP Cresselia. Just about, I'd say 80% health. Does come back into this matchup here. Waits down the switch timer. In comes Wigglytuff with the bow.
Oh my goodness. It's Wigglytuff. And yeah, we didn't note before that the Wigglytuff has no hard checks on Henry's side. So this Wigglytuff with 2 shields is going to be very dangerous. And we see Henry go to the Feraligatr. These double resisted Shadow Claws are not going to do much damage. He can only rely on the Hydro Cannons to take out this Wigglytuff.
Does peel away the first Protect Shield of the game. Believe it or not, Dune, we are finally seeing a Protect Shield in this matchup of Titans. Hydro Cannon does command so much pressure. Gonna look for another Hydro Cannon here. Meanwhile, Inadequance just tapping away.
Yeah, Wigglytuff charming its way through this Feraligatr. We will see if the Feraligatr can get to a third Hydro Cannon. It's going to be very close. And it does not get to the Hydro Cannon. The Wigglytuff is so charming in that matchup.
We're going to see the first Icy Wind come off here. Wigglytuff finally spending some of this stored energy. No shield from HomeSliceHenry. He says no shields, no problem. We're going to see another Icy Wind from Wigglytuff.
Yeah, I think HomeSliceHenry is just too charmed by this Wigglytuff. He decides to concede.
Wow. No shields were broken in the making of this battle. HomeSliceHenry unable to win game number 1. Inadequance relying on double normal types to pilot him through that initial matchup against Henry.
Yeah, that Wigglytuff with 2 Protect Shields was just way too much for HomeSliceHenry. It was just able to chunk its way through the team.
I almost feel like if you are Henry, maybe you need to look at something like a Lantern, right? It gives you a little more bulk, still gives you that water type pressure that you're looking for with Feraligatr, but you're not firing off double resisted fast attacks into a normal type. What do you think? Do you think Lantern could be a pick?
Yeah, and we do have to note the Lantern has Water Gun. HomeSlice has a double electric strategy. And typically you have that Water Gun Lantern. We'll see if that Lantern does see the light of day today.
Yeah, I want to see some Lantern, maybe some Shadow Gligar, but definitely Cresselia. I think Lantern, Cresselia for Henry are both pretty strong. But let's get into game number 2. Do we see the Dragon? Do we see the Giratina Origin form? No, not yet.
We see the Vigoroths in the lead, really just countering at each other right now. Body Slam's thrown on Inadequance's side. We'll see. HomeSlice does not put up the first Protect Shield. So maybe a replay of game number 1 where there's no Protect Shields used in the beginning of the game.
We're going to find out. Both trainers know their IVs inside and out. Going to fire off a Body Slam here. HomeSliceHenry trying to equalize this matchup just a little bit. Inadequance does let the Body Slam through. Both Vigoroths are weak. Do we get a Simul KO? No. We see
we see a catch on the Azumarill. So the Azumarill is going to take 1 Body Slam. And if that Body Slam is going to do a little bit of health, we see the Charge Bug come in. That is a really good assist for the Charge Bug because now a Discharge plus the Volt Switch may be enough to take out the Azumarill.
Exactly right. I think that chip damage will add up. We're going to see a Discharge get fired off here. No protection from Inadequance. He might be going for the 2-shield charm strategy yet again. Discharge does connect.
And we see Inadequance go for the Hydro Pump. HomeSliceHenry immediately puts up the Protect Shield, wants to preserve health on that Charge Bug, expecting that Wigglytuff to be in the back.
Inadequance, this is not Fantasy Cup. I don't know why your Azu has Hydro Pump, and it actually got shielded anyway. We're going to see Wigglytuff come in here.
Yeah, and now we're going to see 2 Volt Switches thrown on HomeSliceHenry's side, then the Discharge, perfect timing on the charge move, and a Protect Shield put up by Inadequance on that Discharge. We might see 2 more Volt Switches put up here, and we see another Discharge put up by HomeSliceHenry.
I can see the win condition panning out here for HomeSliceHenry. He's got that Gligar fully healthy in the back, is able to get to a 3rd Discharge. This Charge Bug just keeps on firing off these attacks, and the 3rd one will finally connect.
Yeah, HomeSliceHenry finally getting some nice damage on that Wigglytuff. And now the Gligar with the Protect Shield should be able to finish off this game.
HomeSliceHenry in the chat says, Charge a God coming through for him in this matchup. Gligar going to look for a charge attack after the Icy Wind debuff. You might think you need to look for the dig, and that's exactly what he's going to do here. Actually, I believe this is
going just for the Aerial Ace. The Aerial Ace will be enough to take out the Wigglytuff. And we'll probably see a nice wing attack down on the opposing Vigoroth.
Oh, still had the Body Slam. Tries to make the catch.
He tried to go for the catch, but a Rock Slide will not be enough to take out Gligar. The Gligar will survive. with no problem. And
Mhm.
HomeSliceHenry is able to tie up the series at 1.
Exactly. I feel like the Azu safe switch getting met by the Charger Bug was really the tide turner there. I mean, Charger Bug was incredible, getting off 4 discharges in that game. I believe it was 1 against Azu, 2 to take the 2 Protect Shields, and then a 4th discharge to land against the Wiggles.
Yeah, Henry was really smart to keep health on that Charger Bug, knowing that there was the potential for the Wigglytuff to charm its way through the team.
Mm-hmm. I'm laughing at the chat because Inadequance says, "Look at me, I'm HomeSliceHenry. I think I can do accent things." Apparently, he means like world champ plays, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. We'll probably see Inadequance try to make some world champ plays in Hawaii.
That's true. We're going to find out what happens. No Lantern in game number 2, no Giratina Origin form either. Let's see what we get in game number 3, champ. This is a decisive game 3 that production.
And we see the Cresselia on the Vigoroth. A pretty decent lead for Henry.
Mm-hmm. I do like this lead quite a bit. You see the Body Slam get fired off here first. I guess anticipation of any kind of Moonblast debuff shenanigans, just wants to get this damage off pronto.
Yeah, wants to get the Body Slam before any potential chance for a Moonblast debuff. And we see the Moonblast thrown by Henry. Will the Protect Shield be put up by Inadequance? It is right the last second. A good Protect Shield on the Moonblast, preserving that health on the Vigoroth.
If you look at this backline for Inadequance, Cresselia does have some nice core breaking potential. It's got the Grass Knots for the Azu, the Moonblast for the Giratina. I think he really wants Vigoroth to weaken this Cresselia, if not just KO it outright in this matchup.
100%. And we see another Moonblast thrown by Henry. No Protect Shield on Inadequance's side. The Moonblast does about half of the Vigoroth's remaining health. And then we see the insta-swap to the Vigoroth to try to get some counters on the opposing Vigoroth. We see a Body Slam by Inadequance. No Protect Shield by Henry. We get the Azumarill baited out. So now the Vigoroth can put in some work against this Azumarill.
I think Inadequance maybe calling the Charge Bug in the back here, wants to put his Azumarill into its best potential matchup, but it's not the Charge Bug. It's a Shadow Gligar for HomeSliceHenry.
Shadow Gligar. So very, very, very nice scenario for HomeSliceHenry, baiting out the Azumarill, keeping the Shadow Gligar away from its worst matchup it could possibly see.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed it. Going to look for a charge attack here any moment. I think Inadequance just banking way, way over the top in terms of energy. Going to take another Body Slam, though, for his troubles.
Yeah, and this Body Slam will put Azumarill into the red. The Azumarill's going to have to throw a charge attack if it doesn't want to take another Body Slam. And it does get the Vigoroth gets the Body Slam right before the bubble.
Wow, Swaggeroth pulling the shield from Inadequance. He's got too much energy to just give up the Azumarill, but now he's down 0 to 2 shields. In comes a Cresselia. We know this is a Hydro Pump Azu. Does Henry shield it? He says, no way. I'm going to let this come through.
Only a play rough. The Azumarill really wanted to just play rough here. The Cresselia trying to get to a move. Oh, we see a simultaneous swap into the Vigoroth and Gligar.
Gligar does have 2 Protect Shields. Going to use the first one here late in this matchup. He's going to look to clean up the Vigoroth here. He knows the Azumarill is in the back. Hasn't seen the third Pokemon yet. HomeSliceHenry has Inadequance cornered. What does Martine do?
Yeah, I think we have to see the Azumarill come back in to throw a move. But he decides to go into the Giratina. And Giratina does not want to take these charge attacks from the Shadow Gligar.
Exactly. We're going to see Dig come through here. Same type attack bonus, Shadow Gligar versus the legendary Giratina Origin form. Takes it down into the yellow.
And we see Inadequance go for an ominous wind bait. Will this be shielded? It is. Oh my goodness. And it is a charge attack priority for Inadequance. So now Inadequance gets to blow all this energy from this Gligar. The Azumarill is so close to a Hydro Pump. And
no way!
Tried to go for the catch, but it was not successful. And the Azumarill gets to the Hydro Pump against the Shadow Gligar, and that will take out the Shadow Gligar.
Don't you know? Pump it up. Oh my gosh, I'm now a Hydro Pump believer, as HomeSliceHenry said in the chat. Surely unlosable. Surely there was a loose condition there. Inadequance pulling a rabbit out of a hat, able to win that game number 3.
Yeah, I did not see Inadequance winning that game. That was fantastically played by Inadequance.
Exactly. Just when you think you're out of the graveyard, right? A hand reaches out and grabs you around the ankle and pulls you down. Henry, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that Giratina rising from the dead to take out HomeSliceHenry and his Shadow Gligar.
It's surely unlosable, but Inadequance did find the win condition, even without Wigglytuff Axon. I know, even without Wigglytuff, he is able to do it. That was an incredible matchup. I know that Axon was really looking forward to casting that one, but he does get to cast with Dunebug 97 in this next series. So, champs, take it away.
That was an incredible set there. Literally 1 HP deciding the game either way. HomeSliceHenry making it so close, but Inadequance just barely overcoming him and getting the 2-1 victory. GG's to both trainers. I wish I could have casted that, but it was very fun to watch. Dunebug, how are you feeling about this next matchup here?
Yeah, and we do know that Thaliwi has to take this match if we want more than one match in the final round.
Yeah, that's very true here. So it is all up to Thaliwi to give us more content here if we want to be able to see more than just one battle in this next round. We have a lot of interesting Pokemon here on both sides. Very unique teams. We have the Talonflame, which is a Pokemon we haven't seen too much of, but I don't know how much play it's going to have into this double water lineup. And once again, we have a Registeel here. I think Registeel is a very polarizing pick. It can have play into some teams, but it can have like a lot less play into others. This team here is going to be interesting. Is that a non-Shadow Gligar that we see?
That does look like a non-Shadow Gligar. And also another note, that Talonflame is running the double flying moveset. So that's a really good moveset if you do encounter the double water lines.
Yeah, especially because we don't see a flying resist on this entire team, right? No Registeel, no Lantern, nothing like that. So what we have is Brave Bird is going to be uncontested this game. If you set up your Talonflame, there's a chance you can just click that funny little move, one-shot everything in the game. I think Rocha could actually make a case to bringing that Talonflame in the set.
Yeah, and we also see Rocha bringing a non-Shadow Whiscash as well. There's quite a few matchups that change between the Shadow and non-Shadow Whiscash. We'll see.
Yeah, like Cresselia, I think,
Whiscash has a lot of play. Exactly. Cresselia's Grass Knot does not take out a Whiscash from full health. So we will see if that does come into play here.
With that said, I think the Azu matchup is actually so much worse for the non-Shadow Whiscash. So we'll have to see if the Azu is going to be brought. There is a lot of play for Azu, as long as you avoid the Lickitung, if you avoid that Reggie as well. Maybe the Azu Vigcore could be a pretty decent duo from Thaliwi. We'll have to see what Rocha wants to do. How is he going to counter this? And I'd say let's get into game number 1.
Yeah, let's do it. And we do see the Cresselia into the Lickitung from Thaliwi's side. This is a very close matchup in the Zero Protect Shield matchup.
Yeah, depending on how good your Cress is, you can sometimes survive and get 3 moves off here, but we don't see the Future Sight variant. Future Sight actually has a lot more play in this matchup. Moonblast, however, if you get a Moonblast debuff, always possible. It's really nice to see, but no debuff there. So we'll just play out this matchup as we normally see. Moonblasts, Grass Knots are going to be thrown. How bulky is this Cress going to be able to be?
Yeah, we'll see. This first Body Slam goes through. Cresselia about a third of its health down. And we see Thaliwi going for the Grass Knot against the Lickitung. Typically, you want to throw 2 Moonblasts and a Grass Knot in the Zero Protect Shield matchup.
Maybe Thaliwi is a little bit less than comfortable here with their bulk on Crest. Maybe they know they won't get to that next Moonblast. So instead, going for the guarantee, trying to neutralize this Lickitung as much as possible. We've seen Charjabug into Cresselia in the past, be not that bad for Cresselia. So I think here, once again, we're using Cresselia as a way to soft lose a matchup like this and hopefully make it so our Azu in the back is going to have a lot more play, make it a lot more flexible. And as long as there's not like another Registeel or something like that, AVA weak to counter, I feel like Azu should put in a lot of work here.
Yeah, if there, like you said, if there's no Registeel in the back, Azumarill is going to have a ton of play into the rest of the team. So we see a Protect Shield on the Cresselia wanting to win alignment, which is a pretty smart play because in case there is that Registeel in the back. We see a Grass Knot on the Talonflame that comes in.
Obviously, you don't have Future Sight, so either of these moves aren't going to do any damage, but the Moonblast would be slightly more efficient, could get a debuff. And we come in Vigoroth Interesting. Okay.
Maybe Thaliwi is trying to call and annihilate in the back, potentially.
Could be. I think that would be a good read if that's why you come in Vigoroth here. But with that said, if you think it could be a Vigoroth in the back, I'd say almost just let your Cresselia go. Try to sweep with the Azu, because once that Licky is gone, I think Azu would have been in a good spot. But now we are down shields against a Talonflame with Brave Bird. The Talonflame has energy. This could be very tricky.
And we do see a fly by the Talonflame. Will the Vigoroth get the body slam? Oh, it does not get the body slam off. And now the Azumarill is left alone against this Talonflame. This Talonflame flying its way into the battlefield.
They do end up shielding here on the fly. What this means is now shields are down. Can this Talonflame survive these bubbles long enough to get to a Brave Bird? I would expect nothing less than for this to be a Brave Bird here. Take almost half of this Azu's health away. What is it? Brave Bird, it comes through even more than half. And now the Azu mirror in the back line. This game is a wrap. It might take a second to play out, but shield advantage, health advantage, Azu. There's no way this little Azu on the Thaliwi side here is going to be able to knock out the opposing Azumarill.
Yeah, the Azumarill is not going to have a great time when it's facing another Azumarill and down shields and health. It is definitely a wrap here.
We were talking about how once that Lickitung was out of the way, then like Thaliwi's Azu would have a lot of play. What we didn't consider is once Cresselia was gone, then Rocha's Azu would also have a lot of play here. So saving the shields for it in the back, very smart play. We see the bubble down. Game number 1 goes in favor of Rocha Babyface. Very well played. Honestly, a very dominant win as well, despite losing switch advantage, knowing you didn't really need that as long as you set up your backline Pokemon for sweeps in the endgame.
Yeah, Thaliwi really tried to make a hard read on the backline of Rocha, but unfortunately, it did not work out. If Thaliwi just let that crest go, get a nice bubble down with the Azumarill, hope there's no Registeel on the back, it might have been a lot closer game.
Yeah, definitely, because the main thing about going down shields is, as we were talking about, you don't have a flying resist. It doesn't matter if you get your Azu against that Talonflame. You're still going to get Brave Bird. You're still going to get flied, if that's how you'd say that. But either way, you have a lot of flying type damage here, and I think you're going to have to respect that going into the next matchup. I don't know if that means maybe adjust to more hard answers to that Talonflame, like the Shadow Quagsire here to spam out moves a little bit sooner, or maybe just saving shields for your Azu. Either way, I think they would be very good calls as long as you can neutralize the Lickitung, make it so once again your Azu does get to avoid it. I think that's probably the best way to go about this matchup.
And I do wonder if we'll see the Charger Bug on the side of Thaliwi. Because of that Talonflame having the double flying moveset, you won't have to worry as much with any fire charge attacks. So Charger Bug has a lot better matchup into that Talonflame. And
Yeah,
also,
exactly. You're not letting it ramp up.
The Charger Bug also has good play into the rest of the team.
Yep, the non-Shadow Whiscash having way less charge move pressure. Probably have to actually land a Scald there rather than 2 Mud Bombs. And honestly, everything else is pretty neutral, if not just good for it. So I can see the Charge Bug adjustment coming through, and you're not giving the Talonflame the ability to ramp up with the Flame Charges. The one bad thing about Charge Bug is you could potentially give it the ability to farm you down and then Brave Bird your backline, but we'll have to see if that actually ends up happening here in game number 2.
Yeah, and I think we are ready to see what goes down game number 2. And the same lead again, it is that Lickitung into the Cresselia. So we will see how the Thaliwi wants to play this out. Yeah, exactly. The same exact teams on both sides. So Thaliwi going for the Grass Knot first this time, not trying to get the Moonblast potential debuff.
All right, I guess trying to strip down the Lickitung as much as possible here. The one issue is your Vigoroth probably is going to have less play in the back. You don't know that your opponent has ran it back yet, so it's going to be kind of tricky at this point if you are the Vigoroth to get a lot of use out of it. But as we said, both these trainers, they did just run back their teams here. There's a good chance that Thaliwi is going to expect that, and there's also a chance that they know how to set themselves up here to win the game, unlike game number 1.
Yeah, absolutely. We will see how Thaliwi wants to play out the rest of this lead matchup. So you see the Lickitung throw the second body slam into the crest, and it does almost puts it into the red. And Thaliwi going for a third Grass Knot. The 3 Grass Knots do not do as much damage as what a Moonblast would have done. So Lickitung will be a little bit healthier coming out of this matchup.
with that said, if Rocha ever knocks out this Crest, that just gives the backline more farm down potentially, but we will have almost a body slam loaded. So if the Vigoroth comes in here, I think Thaliwi could be in a very good spot, but if they come in with the Azu, try to get a bold bubble down, that might be a bit of a mistake. Let's see what Thaliwi is going to do. They do no-shield that move this time, so switch advantage does go in favor of Rocha, but we get the full counter down. I think all of a sudden, Thaliwi is actually in a very good position in this game.
100%. Getting the Azumarill on the Vigoroth is a really good scenario for Thaliwi. So now, based on these backlines, we're going to have the Azumarill on the Talonflame. But remember, that double flying moveset on the Talonflame gives it a lot more play against the Azumarill.
Exactly. If you get shields down or shield advantage for Talonflame, Azu is not a hard counter. You take a lot of damage from bubbles, but it's such a slow charging Pokemon. Azu is not going to be able to just overcome all of the energy that a Talonflame could potentially have. But it's going to come down to how this matchup right here plays out. Who wants to start investing shields? Do they just let their Pokemon go at this point? It's going to be a very tricky situation. And we actually see a swap out here. So 2 shields in play. Azu locked into Talonflame. Can we get a bubble down? Do we see a Brave Bird through 2 shields? What is going to happen in this Azu into Talonflame matchup?
So we see Thaliwi throw the Ice Beam on the Talonflame. It is a neutral Ice Beam. Rocha uses the Protect Shield, the first Protect Shield of the game. And we'll see if Rocha goes for the fly. No Protect Shield on Thaliwi's side. A very good call, knowing that a Brave Bird would debuff the Talonflame's defense.
Exactly. If you would have had a Brave Bird come through there, then you could probably just easily bubble them down anyway. So no shielding that first move. Actually, no shielding the second move as well. Okay, well, this is going to chip down the Azu very much. And how is this Azu going to play this out? We get to another Ice Beam. Can we incinerate this down if we shield? It looks like a shield does come through, so we're going to find out. Does Talonflame have what it takes? Incinerate is a fantastic attack, but Azu is so bulky. How is this going to play out here in the head-to-head matchup?
Yeah, we see... Oh, Azumarill does survive that second Cinder. Thaliwi tries to swap into the Vigoroth, but unfortunately gets met by another fly.
Yeah, we have 2 flies. Both shields are going to have to be used here. I think at this point, the Azu on Rocha's side can get to a Play Rough or an Ice Beam against this Vigoroth and finish out the game by bubbling down their opposing Azu.
Yeah, it's going to be a quick race here. Will Vigoroth get to 2 Body Slams, or will the Azumarill get to the Ice Beam? It's going to be super close.
They're both so close to their moves here. Body Slam comes through. Ice Beam gets reached, and Azu is going to knock out not only this Vigoroth here, but likely bubble down the opposing Azu. And this is looking to be a 2-0 sweep.
But does the Azumarill on the Thaliwi side have a move? No, it does not. And the bubble will KO the Azumarill, and Rocha takes a series 2-0. And moving on to the grand finals.
It was a run back from both trainers, and Thaliwi knew that. Thaliwi tried to play it out as much as they could there. And although it was a bit of an uncomfortable situation with that Brave Bird Talonflame, I feel like they made the right calls to try to no-shield the flies. But what this means is there's only going to be one battle in the grand finals, right? It's going to be, I believe, Inadequance versus Rocha Babyface here, right?
I believe so. And that in that last matchup, too, I think if Thaliwi shields the Azumarill against one of those flies, I think there would have been a potential better chance to win that game.
Yeah, that's true, because Azu, the most damage that you're going to take that game are going to be from that Talonflame's flies. Even if it's not a Brave Bird, shielding that move, maybe farming them down, having play roughs to go against the opposing Azu, that could be a very smart play there. But it's a very hard decision to make in the moment, especially because it's a fire type into a water type. Do you want to shield your water type? Well, I guess sometimes you kind of have to when you're running out of things to shield in games. And that Azu was actually able to be flipped by the Talonflame. Talonflame proving why even against double water lineups, it still has play.
Absolutely. That double flying moveset did come out very clutch for Rocha.
All right, I'd say with that all said and done, let's take a look at the round 4 results and see who came out on top in this tournament. All right, well, we have 2 4-0 trainers, both Rocha Babyface and Inadequance. However, Rocha is completely undefeated. Not a single game dropped this tournament. Inadequance, on the other hand, we saw lost 1 game to HomeSliceHenry. So 2 incredible records. I'm excited to see which one of them can come out on top and see which one of these casters are the best of the best.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting to see if Rocha can hold on to that undefeated record and claim the title of the best caster of them all.
This is going to be an insane grand finals here. Inadequance, obviously a very unique team, a team that he knows how to pilot. 4-0 against all the opponents. Obviously, he has dropped one single game, but he has not dropped a match. He is going to be going to this grand finals hungry. He wants to win. I am very excited here to get into the very final match of the day.
It should be a very fun match to watch.
Oops, sorry guys.
And here we are back with
new one.
This is a replay, I guess, of the previous game. No, we are back with Speediest Chief having a good time in the grand finals. How you doing, Speedy?
I'm doing great. I'm really excited to see the double Talonflame grand finals. Rocha has been insanely impressive, like you said earlier, not dropping a single game. Inadequance with just one blemish on his record, dropping one battle to HomeSliceHenry. But I gotta tell you, if you're gonna lose to anyone, I mean, HomeSliceHenry in the semifinals is a pretty good place to lose.
That's very true. Honestly, he is such a strong battler. That final matchup could have gone either way. It could have been HomeSliceHenry in the grand finals, depending on how that final game 3 would have played out. But we do see Inadequance versus Rocha Babyface with two very unique squads here. I think that the one Pokemon that really stands out to me on Inadequance's team is going to be that Giratina. You have to dodge the Lickitung. But aside from that, you have so much neutral damage with Ghost-type attacks against that Registeel, against that Talonflame. The Annihilate hates to see it. Azu, it's a fairy type, but Giratina resists water. So if you can get the shields off properly, that's not even that bad for Giratina. So I would be so surprised if we don't see Giratina from Inadequance.
It's one of those strange occurrences where a dragon type actually has a very solid, very playable, very palatable matchup versus a fairy type like Azumarill. So much better than any of its dragon comrades. But that being said, I'm really excited to get into these grand finals, Axon. If, let's say you are Inadequance, are you bringing that Giratina origin form game 1? And if you're Rocha, are you bringing that Lickitung game 1? Because I do agree with you. Those are like the centers of gravity that I feel like this matchup is going to pivot around quite a bit.
So I feel like Rocha is literally forced to bring that Lickitung. There's no way it can't come. So Inadequance could make a funny play here. He could drop it entirely, make it so that instead of bringing the Giratina, maybe you bring Talonflame double normal, something like that that's going to have a lot of neutral play or just hard counter potential into that Lickitung, because I'm seeing the Talonflame on Inadequance's side. I'm seeing the Azu, sure, that's kind of a counter, but we saw that it's not the best answer in the world. We also saw that Whiscash, it's non-shadow. There's a chance you survive a Scald here against that Whiscash. It's much more awkward for the non-shadow cache. I think if you're calling that there's going to be that Lickitung, it could be a really funny play not to even bring your best pick of that Giratina and instead hard counter the one Pokemon you know is coming from Rocha's side.
I agree with you. I think the Talonflame on both sides have a ton of play, maybe more so for Rocha Babyface. I definitely think that after seeing these previous matchups, I don't think these casters watched these battles before this actually happened, but seeing the Wigglytuff on Inadequance's team is such a threat, especially when you look at the Annihilate, the Lickitung. You have to bring, in my mind, either the Registeel or that Talonflame if you want to bring a hard answer to the Wigglytuff. So I think Talonflame is probably the optimal choice for Rocha. Let's see what they decide to lock in, though. Axon, I'm ready if you are.
Let's do this.
All right, this is a best of 3 in our grand finals. We've got Azu versus Wigglytuff in the lead. The fairies are on the field. Talonflames in the back with counter users as well.
They both basically ran the same team. A fairy type in the lead, a fighter in the back, and a Talonflame. So they are very like-minded trainers here. Which Pokemon is going to win Switch advantage this game? But honestly, Switch is not what's going to matter. Even though there is a Vigoroth into an Annihilate, I think the way that Inadequance needs to win this game is shield advantage. If you set up that Talonflame, I think flies are going to be what's going to win you this matchup.
This might be the first Swift of the tournament. Wigglytuff using same type attack bonus Swift against the Azu, and it is very underwhelming. Here comes the Ice Beam from the Azumarill. No shield from Inadequance. That is a lot of Azumarill to farm down. I mean, he has to come in here with the Vigoroth, right?
Yeah, I would have to assume so. And now that you see this as Rocha, you just let your Azu go down. You know, 100% of the time, you lock in your Annihilate here. You have your Talonflame, which is so strong into most things that Inadequance could have in the backline. The worst case scenario, I think, right now for him would be that Giratina backline, but we don't see the Giratina. Rather, we see the Talonflame. So no Lickitung even coming this game. Very bold call by Rocha to call that Inadequance would call that he wouldn't bring the Giratina. So many heads-up plays.
So many heads up plays and a heads up swap as well, trying to match pace with the opposing Talonflame. Does not shield up the first charge attack here. Rocha Babyface absorbs the fly, putting his Talonflame down to the yellow. This is actually a Zweilous special. This is a double flying type Talonflame.
Yeah, having Brave Bird and Fly doesn't really help in this matchup, but it does help in a lot of matchups. If you Brave Bird that Giratina, a Pokemon that we know is going to be problematic for Rocha down the line, then you have so much more play there. And we see another Incinerate come through. You have to double shield your Talonflame. But at this point, has Rocha set up an Annihilate sweep?
I think he has, and that's such a heartbreaker for Inadequance that the Talonflame hangs on by a feather there. This is a big call for Rocha. It's actually going to be the Flame Charge to boost this Incinerate damage, not the Fly, but it does peel away the Protect Shield all the same.
I feel like going for that Flame Charge there might be a bit of a misplay. It means that your next Fly is going to take 3 Incinerates, at least your final one that you need to get to. A Night Slash coming through rather than a Shadow Ball. This doesn't knock out. Can Inadequate somehow get to the back-to-back Flies here? It doesn't look like it. If he would have thrown, I think, straight Fly here, there's a chance he could have got 3 Flies off. But now he has the Flame Charge. He has 1 Incinerate from the next move. I think we get countered down still.
Yeah, I think you do. I think that the opposing Annihilate counters all the way down, loads up another charge attack. And if the first Night Slash wasn't enough, the second one definitely will be. Rock Slide is resisted by the fighting typing on Annihilate, so it does absorb the damage quite easily. But you have to be wary of another Rock Slide. Can you get the full counter down? I think yes.
Unfortunately, we don't see the counter down, but what we do see is a Night Slash. Can we get a last-minute boost against this Vigoroth? What is it going to be? Night Slash comes through, knocks out the Vigoroth. No boost, but that is a very dominant win here. We have the Night Slash also loaded for this Talonflame, although it wasn't getting you to a move either way. But Rocha just playing to the guaranteed win con, having a move just in case that Talonflame somehow has a fly, and Inadequance losing game number 1 in a very close manner.
Another very is a very rare misplay by Inadequance. I agree with you. I think if he goes straight for the flies, he applies a lot of pressure, gets to both charge attacks a little bit sooner, and maybe that matchup is a little bit different, but maybe kind of working through the jitters here in the grand finals of our Clash of the Casters.
Yeah, I mean, there haven't been that many Talonflames. I think Inadequance is one of the very few people who actually has Talonflame themselves. Maybe he is a little scared of the opposing Talonflame. He got a little bit scared when he fought that matchup. I don't know. We'll have to see, though, going into this next matchup here, how it's going to play out. But we didn't see that Giratina, right? I actually kind of called what team he'd run game number 1. Double normal plus Talonflame. Just counter that Lickitung, make it so maybe Giratina is safer later on. But Rocha, he called that. He didn't bring his Lickitung. What is going to happen game 2? Does Rocha make the read that Tina is coming, or does he still disrespect it here? Because Azu, Annihilate, Talonflame, that's not a team that can beat Giratina, not in my opinion.
Yeah, but I mean, it's so polarizing too. And this is why, right? If you listen to Inadequance talk about how he built this team, this is why he's got Vigoroth and Wigglytuff on his team, because he needs to be able to answer for the Lickitung. If Lickitung finds either of those two matchups, it's not just bad, Axon, it's abysmal. And that could really turn the tide. So it's high risk, high reward. Do you bring that direct answer to Giratina origin form with your Lickitung if you're Rocha Babyface? Or do you kind of pivot around and try to play around? Game 1, he made a great call, but can Lightning strike the same place twice in game number 2?
Exactly. Inadequance's life is on the line in game number 2. This is a best of 3, not a best of 5. So if he loses this next matchup here, it is over for Inadequance. If he can win it, then he will make it to be a best of 3, decisive game 3. We'll have to see if we can get to that point. Inadequance, what are you going to lead in this next match?
Game number 2. Inadequance pulls out the Vigoroth, and he's got a Talonflame in the lead. He does have the Giratina origin form, though, Axon.
I'm seeing a very tricky Pokemon for Inadequance in that backline. That Lickitung is nearly uncountered. There's an Azu and a Giratina here. If Inadequance stays in this matchup for too long, he's going to be in a bad spot, but he probably is going to swap here. He has 2 better answers to this Talonflame in the back. Maybe try to make a catch on an Azu, and there we see it, catching the move, the fly very likely, on this Azumarill, making sure that his Vigoroth is still around to take care of that Lickitung in the back.
World Champ reads, World Champ calls, called to swap in. We see an additional Incinerate damage come through, banking some energy, going right into Lickitung, pulling out the hard answer. This is exactly what Inadequance was trying to achieve.
I was wondering, would Rocha try to make the call, seeing that it was going to be that Azu that save swaps and a Vigoroth lead? Is this a very obvious bait out of a Lickitung? And it is, but he kind of has to come in here with this because he's already down shields this game. He wants to guarantee switch, make sure that he can keep his Talonflame in a good matchup. And now it's going to be a very interesting endgame. Once this Lickitung's out of the way, especially after this Hydro Pump, it's not going to be that bad for Inadequance to deal with. We might get a farm. Okay, we don't reach that play rough, unfortunately, but we'll get a farm down. Hopefully they have energy for that Talonflame. And Giratina is setting itself up in the backline.
Yeah, this is Vigoroth is just going to bully this Lickitung. It can throw the body slam just to avoid taking any power whip damage. Maybe look for a counter down, but the body slam from the Lickitung will still come through, chipping down the Vigoroth. I agree with you though, Axton. This is looking very, very nice for Inadequance. The obvious bait actually worked. Comes in with the Giratina to gobble up this Lickitung and take some additional energy in the next matchup. Body slam, double resisted. Who cares?
I love this proactive swap out. Honestly, one of the only moves that Lickitung can even use against Giratina to do any damage is going to be that fast attack. Like that charge move does nothing. And we built up an energy lead with that proactive swap. We see the final Pokemon. We have a shield advantage, an energy advantage on this Giratina. What can we do here? Can we sweep this backline? We've already chipped down that Lickitung solo. Azu is half health. Talonflame is half health. Inadequance needs perfect energy management on Giratina. I think he knows how to use this Pokemon though. Let's see how he plays out the rest of this game.
Yeah, I just want to say that the tides are turning. This looks really tough for Rocha Babyface. He's emptying all of his resources into trying to bring down this Giratina Origin form, but it's just not enough. Here comes another charge tag from the Giratina Origin form, and it will go through. No Protect Shield from the Azumarill here. This is going to be a Shadow Ball connecting.
We have to keep in mind, this is going to be in range where Fly can knock out. I think a catch might still be somewhat necessary to win this game, depending on how much energy that Vigoroth has. Maybe we can reach a Body Slam still on it, but maybe not. Fly will come through very soon. An Ominous Wind bait comes off. We try to swap proactively, and we take a move here. Yeah, I love this. You let it go, and now Inadequance can once again get to another move on his Giratina. The Lord of the Distortion World should be knocking out every single Pokemon this game.
I think that Rocha maybe lost track of the energy there. If he goes for the Incinerate down, he might be able to farm down the Vigoroth, but he throws the Fly. Now he takes away the final Protect Shield from the Giratina Origin form. Can he make a catch on the Lickitung to win this game? Does he try? No!
It is so hard to catch as the 5-turn move user here. Ominous Wind getting the knockout. This is a Giratina sweep. The second knockout coming through. It's already knocked out the Azu, and now we have knocked out the normal type with Shadow Claw and Inadequance, bringing it back from a very uncomfortable matchup, making it go to a decisive game 3 here. I am so excited to see how these calls are going to go. Inadequance baiting out the Lickitung and making it so Giratina swept the backline.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the old tricks still work, right? He pulled out the Giratina, he pulled out the Azumarill with that swap and cleared the path for the Giratina Origin form. Great plays there by Inadequance. If you're Rocha Babyface, your opponent just leveled the playing field here. I think both trainers made just small, tiny misplays here and there, but it's really hard to critique this gameplay at this level. I mean, you have to be nearly perfect to take down Inadequance and Rocha Babyface in kind. So going to game number 3, Axon, this is our decisive game number 3, Clash of the Casters. This is the peak of the stream, the final game. Unless there's a tie, then we might get a rematch, right? What are you looking for going into this next battle? Because this next game will determine a $100 cash prize.
This is the $100 match. It has all led up to this. What is Inadequance going to be able to do to overcome this Lickitung? Is Rocha going to make a hard read like they did in game number 1? Or is it going to be a game where Inadequance finally is going to have the advantage in the lead matchup? We're going to have to see if that Wigglytuff comes back. We saw Wigglytuff game 1, but we saw Talonflame have so much play in game 2. How are these lineups going to face off into each other? What are the reads they're going to make? And who is going to come out on top?
All right, I see we're peaking at 184 people in the chat. Let's get some messages going. Let us know who you're cheering for. Dunebug, Aureo are getting hyped. Let's see some more hype messages. This is game number 3 of the grand finals, Clash of the Casters. Inadequance, Rocha Babyface, only one trainer will walk out of the other side.
All right, let's get into this. It's going to be the Azumarill into the Talonflame. Once we have this matchup here, it's going to be such a good matchup for this Azu. We obviously do have Hydro Pump rather than Ice Beam, meaning that we can one-shot this, but also our charge moves do get reached a little bit slower.
Exactly right. Charge attack coming through here from the Talonflame, looking to chip down the Azumarill. Curious that we haven't seen the instant swap yet. Calls the Brave Bird. Inadequate sniffs out the charge attack and is able to shield it correctly. In comes the Azumarill safe swap from Rocha Babyface.
Yeah, Azu is a very safe Pokemon here for Rocha. We don't see that Cresselia in the backline. We actually see a Talonflame and a Vigoroth on Inadequance's side. So it's going to be such a neutral endgame. Actually, a double water lineup, it looks like, from Rocha. So probably trying to bait out a potential Cresselia here and I guess setting up for a Whiscash sweep. No Giratina, it seems, which is going to be an interesting call one way or another here. Playrough does come through, and it is going to land against this Azu, doing a decent amount of damage, stripping it down so our Talonflame and our Vigoroth in the back are not quite as worried.
Small bit of information. Inadequance's Azumarill does win the charge attack priority tie. These Azumarills are very close in terms of energy, so he probably will get to this next one just in time. Maybe one bubble difference. Hard to tell. Here comes Roach Babyface. Actually going to throw on a potential charge attack priority tie, but Martine does not go for it.
I think at this point, both of these Azus are out of range for Playrough, will knock them out. So Inadequance realizes that. He swaps out to his Vigoroth. He wants to save his Azu just in case he needs it a little bit more in the backline, which it could be helpful against both that Talonflame and that Whiscash. And a move is coming through. Luckily, Rocha not running Hydro Pump. Inadequance knows this is just a Playrough at worst. I can survive this. I can build up extra energy and hope that the backline is not going to be super unfavorable.
I really like the Vigoroth choice here from Inadequance. He's calling no Annihilate in the back, and he is 100% on the money. Talonflame comes back in, needs to call a Rock Slide, does call the Rock Slide. Roach Babyface, ice water in his veins.
These calls in these 3 games have been some of the best that I have seen. Rocha making read after read, knowing exactly when Inadequance is bringing that Giratina, and now he is going to be in such a good spot with a team that would otherwise be disrespectful to it. We see Talonflame go down, but he has the shield advantage. He has energy on Azu. He has a full health Whiscash against a Talonflame in the back. If we can get a full Mudshot down, Inadequance is in a huge amount of trouble.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Roach Babyface is lining up all the pieces. Actually, no shields to body slam here. Going to allow his Wigglytuff to get a little bit weaker. I got to say, if there was a Wigglytuff in the back there for Inadequance, this game might already be over, but it's not. We're going to see the Whiscash get the full mud shot down like you called out, Axon. Here comes Talonflame. Great discipline double mud shots from Roach Babyface into the Scald.
The one saving grace, Scald is not going to one-shot because we are the non-Shadow Whiscash here. So you can survive that, but there is still an Azu in the backline. Inadequate swapping to catch the move. Is this going to be enough to win this game? He actually ends up shielding, knowing that at this point he needs to shield something in this game, or else that Azu from Rocha is just going to fast move down everything. But Whiscash has so much energy. We get to another Mud Bomb here. We're going to knock out the Azu, and I think this game is almost over. There's still a Whiscash and an Azumarill, 2 water types for Talonflame to take out.
Yeah, Mud Bomb connects. In comes the Azumarill looking for some bubble damage against this Talonflame. Looks like Roach Babyface is going to be able to pull this one off.
Wow, in the decisive game 3 there, a 2 shield flex, double water type, able to overcome that Talonflame in the backline. Inadequance did end up dropping that Giratina, and Rocha Babyface has become the caster of all casters, the champion here of the tournament. Congratulations to him. Fantastic plays, fantastic reads.
Unreal performance by Rocha Babyface, only dropping 1 battle in this entire Clash of the Casters tournament. 14-1, finishing in second place is HomeSliceHenry, 13-2, and the 2 losses in the grand finals took Inadequance down to third place overall with a 12-3 record. I gotta say though, Axon, one of the big surprises of the tournament for me is No Mimi. No Mimi was so impressive, finishing in 4th place above Rise to Occasion and several other very talented players.
Yeah, exactly. Her team was very unique. The double ghost type lineup there was such an interesting thing to see. Obviously, Bastion is a bit of an RPS pick, but I think Nomimi there, like use it more as bench pressure and making a lot of use out of the ghost types and more flexible Pokemon on their team. So I think that even though, you know, Rocha did win this, there's so many good battlers here, right? HomeSliceHenry, obviously we saw against Inadequance, somehow able to, through point differential here, actually take 2nd place. So congratulations to him. And Inadequance in a very hard-fought battle, just barely not knocking out Rocha Babyface here and taking the 3rd place spot.
I'm telling you, when you look at the right column here, you've got 2 second place regional championship finishers in Tomahawk and Caleb, and you've got Nighttime Clasher, who is the Liverpool regional champion. If you got regional champions finishing in the bottom half of the bracket, you know this tournament is absolutely stacked. So I think we kind of put this to rest, right, Axon? We proved that casters can still play the game.
Oh, for sure. I would not want to fight any one of these trainers if I were to go to a tournament that they'd be attending. They are such a great group of battlers. Obviously, you have to know what you're doing if you're casting here, and I think we all knew that, but they just proved it once again, how strong every single trainer on this list is. And I want to give a big thank you, not only to all these battlers, but also to Steve for setting this up. And with that, I'd say we can go back to all the casters here and talk about how this tournament went.
Hi, we're back. But what a grand finals, right? Inadequance, I mean, just that game 2 especially, that Giratina play just really had Roche's number. There was just nothing that he could do. And I don't know how these guys seem to read each other perfectly. The Lickitung and Giratina both only coming out at the same time. I don't understand.
I know, that was crazy seeing those reads by Rocha there. I'm really surprised that that Giratina didn't come more from Inadequance. That is his signature Pokemon, but maybe to a fault. Maybe he knows, people know Giratina is his Pokemon, so he knew he couldn't bring it, and it made it a little bit more awkward. But that Lickitung was also so much bench pressure there for Rocha. Very close grand finals. I am so lucky I was able to cast that.
Yeah, look, I think
yeah, that was such a great experience.
Oh, go ahead, dude. Sorry.
Yeah, those battles were incredible to watch. Inadequance and Rocha definitely put on a show. That double flying Talonflame was a menace because you have so much play against those water types. There's so many double water teams. That double flying Talonflame might be a threat at Worlds. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
And when you have the Incinerate damage, you already have your fire damage coming through in your fast attacks. So why not double up on flying type charge attacks that give you so much more flexibility? Yeah, Rocha and his Talonflame were super impressive.
Yeah, I think that like there were only 3 Talonflames in this tournament, right? And 2 of them were in the grand finals just now. So I feel like if you're attending the World Championships in just a week and a half's time, I think you've really got to start respecting the fact that Talonflame is going to be a big deal. Whether you're someone like, you know, Rocha running that double flying moveset, or maybe you're running that Inadequance, sort of more traditional moveset with the flame charge. And I think the third person running it was actually Lundberger in this tournament, who we saw play last week. You know, may not have been in the grand finals, but that's only because there was only room for 2. Definitely third place in our hearts. But I feel like I'm actually curious, guys, if you sort of have taken anything else out of the meta that we've sort of seen playing out through this tournament, whether there's any other interesting picks that you think might perform quite well at Worlds. Because as we were sort of talking about last week, you mentioned it, Axon, actually, in that there's only been one official Play Pokemon tournament in this season, and that was NAIC. And so I feel like in general, we haven't actually got a lot of opportunity to see how the meta is developing, what Pokemon are going to be good. So tournaments like this sort of give us that opportunity to see what these guys are thinking that have seen so many battles. So I'm curious, I mean, Speedy, is there anything that you're sort of seeing playing out in this tournament?
So you mentioned the outsized performance of Talonflame. I think that's really credit to the fact that Lantern has been in steep decline for quite a while. And granted, yes, people can run Water Gun Lantern, got a great matchup against Gligar. But outside of that, Charjabug is the premier electric type. You see this in this tournament, in the usage statistics. You see this in the Candle Cult practice tournaments as well. Charjabug is definitely a force, but that bug typing really betrays it against fire types like Talonflame. So I do think there is an opening for fire, whether that's Talonflame or Skeledirge. We're going to see how that unfolds going to the championships. The last point I wanted to make is that Rocha taking a regular Whiscash to the grand finals and winning the tournaments proves that Mudboy is not quite out of it yet, because there's so many Quagsires, but a Whiscash ended up winning it all.
Yeah, exactly right. I think there's been a lot of sort of shadow versus non-shadow discourse in this tournament as well. We didn't see it as much this week. We saw it a little bit more last week, but the Feraligatr especially, we were seeing a lot of non-shadow Feraligatr success, and you mentioned it a bit at the start of the stream, Speedy, in terms of, Axon's clear favoritism of the non-shadow
yeah, he's so biased.
You can't shut him up about it. It's just constant. But I really think that these differences are really sort of being shown in that all Pokemon seem to actually have viability in Shadow and non-Shadow. Both are doing quite well in the hands of these casters. I mean, what about you, Dune? Is there anything that you've sort of noticed going through this tournament talking about the Pokemon?
Yeah, I think Azumarill is absolutely one of the best Pokemon in the meta right now. Probably the top Pokemon in the meta. There's still a good battle for who's the best Mudboy. Shadow Quagstar or Whiscash. It's going to be an interesting scenario that we see play out in Worlds. It's going to be so much fun to see the battle of the Mud Boys, all the Azumarills going at it. It's going to be fun.
Oh, yeah. That's for sure. I mean, look, all four of us are actually going to be at the World Championships. Obviously, two of you guys are going to be battling. So hopefully you've had the opportunity to sort of get as much out of this as possible for your teams. And of course, someone here is going to be casting. So a little bit of a warm-up for some world champion level battles that we definitely saw today. Multiple of these casters are competing at the World Championships, many of them in fact. So really looking forward to seeing all of this play out. But let's just straight away also say a massive thank you to all of the competitors for actually jumping into this tournament, playing it through. These were a lot of fun to watch, a lot of fun to cast when I was casting last week, but as well, but especially to watch this week, sitting back, relaxing, and just taking in some really cool battles. But like, these guys are incredible. Really enjoyed watching them play. Loved getting their insights as far as what teams they actually think are going to be successful at the World Championships. So massive thank you to them. And of course, congratulations to Rosha for taking out the championships. And good luck at the World Championships as well. Now, Axon, I think everyone knows you at this point, but you know, let the people know where they can sort of find you after this stream, if you've got anything up, and how is your world preps going?
Yeah, I'm TzSpenx. I stream Pokemon Go PvP nearly every day at twitch.tv/TzSpenx. Also have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/TzSpenx. So if you want to see any live content or just GBL sets on whenever you want, I have a YouTube channel, I have Twitch, and yeah, my worlds prep, I go through like a new team every single day. It's very interesting. I've probably come up with more teams just for worlds than I have for any other tournament ever. This meta it's interesting as we've seen here today. So, I mean, honestly, I've got a bit of inspiration after today, though. So, we'll have to see what I end up bringing.
No, good thing. Let's actually circle around to the other competitor at Worlds, Dunebug. Where can we sort of find you after this, and how is your Worlds prep going?
Yeah, y'all can find me over at twitch.tv/Dunebug97. I stream Pokemon Go content almost every day, just like Mr. Axon. And you can also find me on Twitter or x.com/Dunebug97. And yeah, my world's prep has been a roller coaster. I'm literally, last weekend I came off a 7 local weekend in 4 cups and 3 challenges in one weekend. So I definitely got a really good taste of the meta. And my world's prep has been great. Like, it's been fun trying to figure out what I'm going to bring. But we'll see what the final product ends up being.
Yeah,
I think people will really enjoy it.
Oh yeah, it's going to be, I'm interested to see how it all plays out. And I do want to say really quickly as well that there were 2 cups and a challenge in my sort of, in my state this last weekend, and multiple people came up to me and was like, oh, I was running the Inadequance team in the first cup, or I was running the Rosha team. And so the people are watching these tournaments. The teams are coming. So maybe if you're attending Worlds, you should maybe look at the teams that will run in this tournament as well. You may see them very soon. But Speediest Chief, of course, the first ever Silver Arena World Champ. Thank you for coming on. Where can we find you? And as Inadequance is asking in chat, when do you stream? But also, how...
I saw that. I saw that message. Yeah. He roasted me in the chat. That's obvious. But I'm used to that, right? Obviously, you can find me at my in-game title, Speediest Chief 2, on X, formerly known as Twitter, or Twitch or YouTube. But I'm feeling inspired, right? I've got the second Soph World Champ next to me, who's actually a great content creator, does a lot of like what I call double header streams, where he'll stream starting around maybe like 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and then go through midnight, and then do sets on the other side of that as well. So it's like an extended stream, right? And then you got TzSpenx, who's turning out incredible YouTube content. He started off with a series about move timing that I think is so important for people to learn and understand. And then he goes into his own teams and creates unique teams all the time. Like he said, that's super hard. To create teams every single day is really challenging. And then Steve, who's actually like pulling together casters, creating tournament content in the off season. That's actually very high level, very exciting to watch. I mean, 180 people were watching this stream earlier. That's incredible. That's sick. I'm feeling pretty inspired to make content. So we'll see what happens in the future, but yeah, definitely follow me at my in-game name, and follow all these other guys on this side. Follow all of them as well, because they're awesome.
I mean, I will say, I guess you are streaming pretty soon on your main channel, twitch.tv/Pokemon Go, in about 2 weeks' time. So definitely be sure to tune into his stream then. But I mean, here's the question, Speedy. How is your world's prep going? Because that's also a slightly different caliber to the rest of us.
No, this is definitely great practice, and it was awesome to see Dune take up the microphone, right, doing some casting, as well as Dancing Rob and Emmy Weedle, and it's Axon has been doing a lot of YouTube content, and he's doing the casting too. It's really sick to watch. No, this is great. It's great to see the meta because, like Zweilous and I talked about on the podcast, this is kind of like a black box. We don't know what's going to come out on the other side of this meta post NAIC. So this is a great preview and a good warm up too. So thanks, Steve.
Anytime. But with that said, thanks again to all of you guys for coming on. And of course, Dancing Rob and Emmy Weedle for coming on last week. This has been a lot of fun to watch, to put together, and for me to play in as well. Having fun in all hats, but really just a pleasure to have you guys on. The world champ sweep of the casting spots. Really cool to see. And again, really cool to have this tournament take place. And really happy to see all of you guys watching as well. You know, I would still be having a great time if no one was watching, but really cool to have you guys along for the ride as well. But with that said, I think we're going to raid off. So thanks all coming and good luck to everyone at the World Championship. It's going to be a really cool stream. Really looking forward to seeing it all unfold. Watching the big screen above the stage. I'm really looking forward to it. So let's head on out into one of essentially the Pokemon Go winner of the 2019 World Championships when it was back at an invitational, and that is King IV. So he's sort of the first ever Pokemon Go World Champion in some sense. So we'll raid over onto him doing some Go Battle League. Send him some love and really appreciate everyone coming out. But that said, we'll hit the start raid button. And I think we'll just see you all next time. So take care.